Hmm. Just trying to get this set up here, guys. Now I know why there's always so much dead air with this stuff. Let's see, YouTube Studio. Where's my chat monetization details? Cancel. Hey, me. Hey, me. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. All this spookiness. Dun, 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 dun. I wonder if I can get like spooky Halloween music on here. Hello, hey, what's up, guys? I'm trying to find some spooky Halloween music to add to this. Do you like all the incense? I know, it's super spooky. Let's see, Spotify, spooky Halloween. Oh yeah, sounds. It'll just be sounds of like people like grunting in the background and stuff. I guess that's something different. Okay. We'll see how distracting or non-distracting this may be. Okay. The all-electric 2020 Nissan Leaf. Here's to the next 5 billion. Enjoy the next 30 minutes of uninterrupted listening. I just want a little spooky music. I don't want like a ton of like. How loud is that? Is that? This is Monsters in the Wood. Strings. I don't know, folks. Hello, person jumping in. Hope you're having an awesome Halloween. Hope this setup isn't too spooky for you. I know. Can you hear that? Can you actually hear those spooky noises? Can you hear me too? So I move this closer. I know that makes a ton of noise. And then, I got my costume, my hat. I got my ninja swords ready to go. And let's see here. I'm going to check this out. So when I go home, and then view all posts, what happens? I want to hear how it sounds. Hey, Leo. Hey, Joel. To be black in America is to be an entrepreneur. Sorry, I was trying to test it. I want to hear. Okay, so can you hear the spooky noises? Are they too distracting? It's like bats and stuff and crows. And Leo, my Halloween's going great. I mean, I don't think we did a live stream last year. I think this is really cool to be able to do Halloween with you guys. Oh, we did. I went to a Halloween party and we walked around town. That's okay. It might be too distracting. I'm gonna turn it down because I can still hear it. It's kind of spooky for me. But it probably it was just the sound of bats. It's the sound of bats and crows. How's Halloween going for you guys? Are you guys doing anything? Are you guys dressed up? Sitting in a spooky place with haunted dolls behind you? Dude, I got this hat. Don't make fun of me. Well, you can. I got this hat at Hot Topic like 10 years ago. And I remember it was like $20. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of money for a hat. But, it's I love this hat. This hat's dope. And then I got my swords. You know, Leo, it's funny. I was because, I used to have Shudder. I talked about it a lot during the beginning of the lockdown. And I've looked a lot of their stuff. I've been looking through Hulu stuff as well. Okay. Hey, Barfy Man and Burnt Toast Ghost will stop by. I've been looking like Hulu's doing Huluween and stuff like that. We're going to see how it goes. It's totally up to you guys. But after this live stream, if there's interest, because I've talked a lot about this, we can move to Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, we'll probably watch a horror movie there as well. See you, Barfy Man. But we'll talk about that later. We're now in no rush to end it. Leo, what are some good movies you've seen on Shudderfest so far? Or anyone seen any good Halloween movies so far? It's kind of hot. It's kind of hot with all this costume stuff. It's not even a costume. It's a green spooky sweater. Panels all day, so not really. Oh, Shudderfest. Okay, so that's not like, because Hulu has Huluween and it's just movies. So that's like a convention. That's like an online convention, I'm guessing. That's cool. That's actually really cool. Shudder, they're working with Amazon, like you can get both collections together, but I guess they don't have as many movies. But Shudder's actually, I think they're going to get really big in the horror market. I know they've been buying up like that new Nicolas Cage one, The Color of Night. That's not the name of it. The Color from Space. I think they bought that up. They've bought up a couple of horror movie now that are getting mainstream attention. So I think Shudder is going to be big. I originally thought they were just going to be a niche thing that was going to be showing slasher movies like Hatchet all the time. But no, they're doing a pretty good job with their market. Getting some. See, it's spooky, dude. Look at this. Cranberry mandarin. I thought it was pumpkin. But it's still spooky. And it's giving me more light here. Hey, Burnt Toast Ghost. Yeah, Amazon for me, it's because I order everything through Amazon Prime. So that was part of it. Like, I'm already paying that. I have Hulu. I have the Disney one. And they have a lot of horror on there. They actually even have some horror series. They had that one about the teenagers trapped in a high school, which ran for 2 seasons. That was good. They have Zomboat, which is a comedy. I hate comedy. I hate zombie comedies. And I hate horror comedies. But Zomboat was pretty funny. It was British. So Hulu has some good stuff. Amazon has some good stuff. If we do the Amazon live stream after this, then I got some good movies that we can look at. Yeah, Leo, horror comedy. You know what's funny is that when it's done right, it's amazing. Like Shaun of the Dead, like Zombieland. But I mean, those are the two you say off the top of your head. The horror. Oh, you know what's funny actually too is that I don't necessarily think they're the best movies. I gotta say that, but the Scary Movie, the very first Scary Movie, and some of the sequels, because it's funny. Okay, your mileage may vary, but the parts that are scary are legit scary. Like when the Ring Girl shows up or the Grudge Girl shows up in one of them, they actually balance it out fairly well. It's mostly comedy with a little bit of horror. But I've seen so many like zany zombie movies. I started watching one the other day called Anna and the Apocalypse, and I was like, nope. I could tell I wasn't into it. I have a bunch of friends telling me to watch the Santa Clarita Diet. And I'm like, what's it about? I mean, I kind of know what it's about, but they're like, oh, it's like zombies, but it's a comedy. I was like, no, I'm done. I don't even want to watch it. Warm Bodies was good, though. Have any of you guys ever seen Warm Bodies? That was one that surprised me. That was a zombie romantic comedy. And it was based on a novel, so that helped. They already had a really good framework. It wasn't just a script somebody wrote. But horror comedies are real. Cabin in the Woods is pretty funny. But I'm naming off like the best ones. It's like if someone asks you to name what are the best movies of the 60s, you're going to be like Easy Rider, Ben-Hur, some other ones, someone who knows a lot about it. They're not going to remember like Charlotte Ate Her Watch. And it was some stupid movie that came out starring Zsa Zsa Gabor. Like you never remember the bad stuff. You always can think of. It's playing spooky music over here, and I wish you guys could hear it. But it's kind of creeping me out. But yeah, so yeah, I would be a fan of horror comedies. I am when they're exceptionally well done. But I remember once I was watching the zombie movie, dude, it made me so mad because they kept stopping to crack jokes, and like the guy was peeing, and the zombies were coming, and they're like, "Come on!" It was Australian. They're like, "Come on, man, come on!" And he's like, "Oh no, I got to shake the snake. I got to shake the snake." He's like trying to finish peeing, and the zombies are getting closer. And then at the ending, he turns around and pees on one of the zombies and runs away. And I was like, how am I supposed to take any of this? You guys might have thought that was funny. But I was like, how am I supposed to take any of this seriously now? Like, even in Shaun of the Dead, they didn't really mess around with the zombies. Even though it took them a while to like figure out how to kill them, they weren't like, oh, let's take time out of this to hit this one like a piñata just for fun. The threat level was real. And the thing that a lot of horror comedies mess up on is they think everything should be funny. You have to have a threat level, and then you could crack some jokes in the middle of it. But if it's just a guy peeing on zombies, I saw another one. It was a totally different movie where a guy he had like a picket fence, and the zombies are on the other side of the picket fence, and he was walking by it, and they're like, he's like, oh, Jerry, up early already. And he's like, I'm like, how am I supposed to take this seriously? If you can walk up to a zombie and talk to it in front of a picket fence, I feel like I'm ranting at this point, but I shut that movie off after that scene. I was like, no, if the characters aren't taking the threat real, then why should I? You can be spooky like that. This is spooky. But you see, I have Veronica the Haunted Doll. She's back. This here is a scene from Friday the 13th. I don't think you can see it, but it's Jason jumping out of the water. And that, I don't know where I got that at. I think I found him on the road last year. If I remember correctly, I think that he either came out of a gift basket or I found him in the gutter. One of the two. Either someone had a gift basket and that was included, or he's a gutter cat. I'm not for sure. But yeah. And then really we're just getting ready for the next week of episodes. That's my big thing. I have all my stories picked out, plus more. I usually come to bat with 15, 20 stories ready to go. And then obviously we only do 10. So that's nice. Sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I don't know what stories I'm going to do. And it sucks. When you imagine having to prepare a 35-minute speech for 2,000 people every single day, and there are some days you wake up and you don't know what you're going. You don't know what the topic is going to be later in the day. That's what doing this podcast is like. It's when I record them, and a lot of times I'll record them ahead of time. So the episodes you hear on Wednesday, sometimes I'll have recorded on like Monday or Tuesday. But sometimes I'm recording it 2 hours before I release it. So, and that's usually just comes down to so you guys want some behind the scenes stuff. We did some major changes this week. This was our first week out of the gate. Dude, that Monday episode, the haunted website episode, it was so gross. I'm actually glad that I'm done with that episode because I don't have to research to get that stupid subreddit anymore. Ugh. So that was a relief. I actually planned on doing that episode on Wednesday because this is kind of an intense episode to come out the gate and talk about. I swear that website's haunted, dude. I 100% swear it's haunted. But don't go to that subreddit. It's so disgusting. The Mars episode, Earth First. I did 2 episodes right off. I did 2. Leo, it's bad. It's like and again, I go to the heroin subreddit. I go to all these other subreddits with people who, dude, you could totally be friends with someone on heroin. It's not advisable, but you could totally, if you knew someone who's doing heroin, you're like, hey, dude, you should probably stop doing heroin. And they'll be like, oh yeah, The other subreddit, you don't want to hang out with those dudes. You don't want those people to exist around you. And the fact that they're all just hanging out on that same spot, it's real. You know what, Leo? Here's the funny thing. You'll notice with that episode, there's parts I had to cut out of that episode. With that episode that episode I'm talking about Reddit, and the gang stalking episode I'm talking about subreddit. They're 2 different days. 2 different episodes. On the gang stalking one, I said, hey, here's this guy's name. Here's his username. He's crazy, da-da-da-da-da. If you heard that gang stalking subreddit one and you're laughing and you went and you looked up that guy's user history, you're not going to do anything to that guy, right? There might be 1 out of 50,000 people who would start trolling this guy who believes in gang stalking. And I don't think any of my listeners would do that. You guys are dope. So I didn't have a problem giving out his username or I never gave any real information on Vampire Kevin, but you know what I mean? I didn't have a problem doing it. If I gave out, though, when I was talking about the dude who was in that other subreddit, you want to kick the crap out of these guys. So I had to be really, really careful. It's one thing when I'm talking about Look at this guy has these crazy beliefs. Here's the link to, because I included the link to that, his post. The other guy, a normal person, wants to kick the crap out of that dude. The guy in the sex offender support. You want to burn the server with fire. And I had to be real careful because I couldn't sound like I was calling for a raid. I couldn't sound like I was doxing somebody. There were parts of the episode that I cut out because it kind of came across. It kind of came across like I'm like, I can totally understand if you guys want to. The incense is on my eyes. You know what I mean? Like, you have a visceral reaction to those type of people. Someone's like around you being a gang stalker, using heroin, stuff like that. Whatever. Somebody's around you has different political opinions from you, whatever. But if I was to start pointing out these people's names and stuff like that, and you, again, a normal person just wants to go like, this is unacceptable behavior in a civilized society. So I didn't put the show. Obviously, a lot of people have checked it out. But if I put links in those show notes and something happened to those people, I would be legally liable. Is it something? See, this is where I'm getting back in the gray area because you want to do something about it. It was an editorial decision not to include the links, but I think I gave enough information that you could at least find that subreddit and you could get one. It exists because I didn't know anything like that existed. Not on Reddit. I'm sure stuff like that exists, but I mean, but I feel when I was researching that, I felt gross. And I felt mad, and I felt sad, and I'm glad I'm done covering that story, and I'm not going back. Like, in the lead up to that, I was checking because I was trying to get information about like how this works, how these people are. And to give you examples, and since that episode ran, I haven't gone back. So I was like, I'm glad that I covered the episode when I did. Originally, it was something that we weren't going to cover for a while because I was going to wait until that person deleted their account or stopped. Because again, like you want to kick you want to go after these guys, but when you're talking about it publicly, you know what I mean. Like again, if I can talk about Hans all day long, you guys aren't going to go troll Hans. It's funny. The stuff's funny. The stuff that these guys are doing is gross, and you have a visceral reaction to it. But anyways, so we're done with that story. I'm so glad it's done. A couple of you guys have gone and checked that out though, and there's something wrong with it. But moving on, there was originally that was supposed to be Wednesday's episode. I'm glad I moved it up. The Earth First episode was I recorded that. What happened like that? I've always wanted to do. I think I've done one or two where I haven't had the standard introduction. I had one where there was an alternate timeline and I was given information about if Jeb Bush had won the election. I did that. And then I did another one where I was in the alternate dimension. It was the 2012 reset. I did a different one. No, that was the same episode. So this was the first episode. I remember the bear. Remember that bear episode in Japan? I was originally going to do a different intro for that where I was going to talk about the bear waking up and he goes and he looks at the town and then the music starts. But you got to be careful about switching up your formula because I'm a listener first. And if shows start messing with their theme songs, if stuff starts changing, it throws you off. You want the comfort of hearing the same stuff, the same format and stuff like that. You kind of find yourself sometimes singing along with the music or, because you know exactly the pace and the tone that I'm going to give that intro. You can copy it. You want it to be comfortable. So I always wanted to do an intro like that, though. So I was funny. I got out of the shower and I was getting ready to record that episode. It did take me 2 hours to record 2.5 minutes to do the speech, and I mean, obviously, the speech took me a minute to record. I just came out and improv'd it, and but then I was spent the whole rest of the time doing filters, and I had to like move all these audio tracks around and make it sound like there was a group of people. It was me. I was changing the pitch of my voice so it would get higher and lower to make it sound like multiple people. And then I recorded the episode at 11 o'clock at night, and it was such a letdown. That intro was dope, and it got you totally psyched up. And the episode was about 2 stories that took place on Mars. And I recorded it from 11 p.m. to, I did the intro at 10. It took me a long time. So I probably did it at 9. So at 11 p.m., I record the episode. This is the day before it's due. Record an episode about a boy who talks about that he's a reincarnated Martian. And the second story was about Captain K and his time on Mars, the slave colony or something like that. And I went to bed, and as I was falling asleep, I go, that episode is not as good as it needs to be for that intro. Like, that intro's dope. I really, really like that intro. Like, obviously, I think had I had more time, I could have made the crowd sound fuller. But I was really happy with it. But as I was going to sleep, I go, I'm gonna have to re-record that entire episode because that intro's too awesome. And go to work and all that stuff. And then I came home and I re-recorded a brand new episode. Actually, I think I woke up and re-recorded the episode like at 6 a.m. that day. I think it came out, I think it was the Thursday episode or something like that. I recorded it at 6 a.m. with all new stories. You notice like at the beginning, I'm like, oh, here, let me talk about Captain K real quick. And I condensed this story into maybe like 5 or 6 minutes when before it was 15 minutes long. But all of that stuff I had to research. I remember that's what I did. I woke up at like 5 or 6 in the morning. I researched stuff. I may have even been looking it up on my phone before I went to bed because I knew, no, this episode, I had to re-record that episode from scratch. And then Friday's episode was the Halloween episode. I totally forgot it was Halloween. I totally forgot it was the last episode before Halloween. I had an episode ready to go, which I am going to do. I'm going to cover the reincarnated Martian boy. The stories were good. They just weren't good enough for that intro. I'm going to re-record the little boy who thinks he's a Martian. It was a cool one. It has been that kind of year, Leo. And then what was the other one? I was going to do a story, and I posted like sometimes I'll post the stuff on Patreon, and it'll say like what the episodes are for that week because I've planned them out. And that one, I was supposed to be Friday's episode was about a man trapped in a satellite that the U.S. government launched a satellite, and there was a man inside of it. It's a great story, but it's not a Halloween story. So as I was looking, I remember that was another one that I think it was Thursday night. Or whatever. I'm getting the days mixed up, but I thought that's not Halloween. That's not Halloweeny, right? That's not spooky. I mean, it's spooky if you're in the satellite. That's really spooky. But I have to fix this. So that was another one. I had to find some stories right off the bat. And what were the stories in that one? Oh yeah, dude, the Dennis Nilsson one, which I had forgotten about that story, and I had recently read about that guy who was flushing that girl down the toilet, and I remembered. I was like, oh, what was the name of that killer who's flushing people down the toilet? And back that I had read that book on, and I remember when I was reading, I remember that I stopped reading the book, but when I was getting ready to do the episode, I had it on my plate for about a week or two. It was before the break. I thought, I'm not going to tell him it's a serial killer story. I'm just going to start it off. And someone pointed that out on YouTube too. Someone goes, it seemed like you were talking about an SCP. It seemed like you were talking about a monster when you were laying out this thing about this thing in the sewer. Who said that? Because that was a really cool comment. Yochel. on YouTube was like, yeah, it sounded like you were talking about a monster, but instead you're talking about a serial killer. And so I like the way that I feedback on this one because I want to get you guys in on the conversation. Well, I think I'm going to throttle a little. I think I'm going to pull back a little bit on the UFO stories. I feel like the show goes through phases. Like there was a time, and it was probably like 2 months, where it was really cryptid heavy. And then there's been a time, it's been the season 11 had a lot of UFO stories in it. And I think the stories are interesting. They're always weird, obscure UFO stories, but sometimes I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe because I have a ton of them. I have so many UFO stories. I personally want more ghost stuff. That is the hardest. You wouldn't think it. That is 100% the hardest material to find. The easiest stuff to find. And we're talking good stuff. I can find a ton of trash ghost stories, and I can tell you about them all the time. The easy stuff to find are really obscure UFO stories. And really the easiest stuff to find is like conspiracy theories, but not good ones. Right? Not stuff that you guys want to hear about. Yeah, and you know, you can have in Leo, yeah, you can have the mix up of story. I try my best to, like, when I'm looking at stuff, if I have a true crime story, I make sure I have the most outlandish other story to mix it in. Like, Joel wants to see me fight an alien. Dude, it was so funny. Just last night, I was laying in bed, and I go to bed like at 3 a.m. I have this stupid habit now where I exercise at 11 p.m. I do this full workout at 11 p.m. and then I can't sleep until 3 a.m. and I'm like, oh, why can't I sleep? It's good. But anyways, I'm laying in bed last night at 3 a.m. and my bedroom window looks out to the night sky, and I remember thinking, dude, what if like aliens are finally done with me? Is my beard uneven? What if the aliens are finally done with me talking trash? Because that's all I do. That is all I do. I either talk trash about their galactic mission. Yeah, I always talk about how lame it is, or about them physically. Imagine if there was a dude who every time he saw you said how easy it was to beat you up. Said that, dude, your eyes are so big I could just punch you right in the eyeball. It'd be the easy. What would you? And so I was laying in bed last night, and I was thinking, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe they've just decided that guy's not worth it. Maybe they decided that he really will beat him up. The Red Baron shooting down their spacecraft. Dude, that'd be dope. I think I told you guys about that. I wanted to write a movie about the Red Baron, but I never got around to it. Yeah. Waking up, having aliens in my room, I just start swinging. But I don't know, man. I'd be down. Again, not a reptilian, dude. Those guys would mess me up. Not a reptilian. That's no go. A Nordic might be fine. I mean, they're tall. They're like 6'5" and stuff like that, and they're pretty like beefy, but they're kind of like peace loving, right? So you could probably you do a little jab and weave on them. Gray aliens would be nothing. You could mess them up. Insectoids, dude. I talked about them in the Mars episodes. Insectoids don't get enough love. I wish there were more insectoid stories out there. I would not mess with an insectoid at all. I wouldn't. I would an insectoid or a reptilian, and you said I'd 100 times rather fight a reptilian than an insectoid. Because even a reptilian only has 4 limbs, dude. Like, even a reptilian, even though he's like big, they're like 6'8". They're super muscular. They got claws and stuff like that. They don't got mandibles. They don't got big old pinchers and stuff. You're fighting something with 6 legs. I mean, I'm probably going to lose either way. But, oh, dude, have you guys, I think we talked about that. I wonder if that's on Amazon Prime. Midnight Meat Train. Have any of you guys ever seen the Midnight Meat Train? I wonder if it's... Sorry, I'm over here. I asked you guys a question, and then I immediately leave. No, I can't do it. Midnight Meat Train. Oh, wait, it is. Midnight Meat Train was the very first movie with who's that guy? Bradley Cooper. He's a member of the Brads, that secret society that's slowly taken over the planet. Yeah, Bradley Cooper and Vinnie Jones from Snatch. You know that big bullet tooth Tony from Snatch. Um, the movie was actually really hard to find for the longest time. It's been re-released. It came out back when Bradley Cooper was a nobody. It was his first movie, and I watched it. And I remember about halfway through, like I had to do dishes or something like that. So I kind of got up and walked away. Um, no, that's incense. See, because it's spooky. And then this is a candle. And then this is Bigfoot. But he was blocking my view too much, so I took him down. Midnight Meat Train is great. Midnight Meat Train, don't look it up. I mean, you can watch the movie, but don't look up spoilers, because I remember I was watching it and I was like, oh, okay, this is the kind of movie it is, and da 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 da. And I got up to do the dishes or something like that, or maybe smoke more weed. I don't remember what I was doing at the time, but I watched it when it first came out, I think like in 2008, and gave up halfway through. And then I started hearing people talk about it in the conspiracy community. They're like, hey, have you seen Midnight Meat Train? And I was reading about it on forums, like Godlike Productions and stuff like that was talking about Midnight Meat Train. I was like, what? So I went to go find it. You couldn't find it for the longest time. It had gone out of print. Now with digital, it's back. Dude, Midnight Meat Train is dope. We might, again, I don't want it to, if we don't do an Amazon watch party tonight, and again, that's up to you guys, because I do have to do some research. Do you remember that now, Leo? Do you remember Midnight Meat Train? If we don't do an Amazon watch party tonight, we'll do one in the future, and maybe that'll be one of the movies that we watch, because that one is, it's good. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Yeah, yeah, and I've watched it all the way through since, and I was like, yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's pretty dope. The movies that I was thinking, if we were going to do an Amazon watch party, and again, it's up to you guys, but we have, because of the type of movies that I watch, we have Inhuman Witch. It's about a man who turns into a meat sandwich. We have Hell's Kitty. We have Clown of the Dead. It's about a ghost clown, I guess. It'd be better if it was zombie clowns. I think those would be better. We could watch Midnight Meat Train, but I think that's one we could probably promote more. I think that's one. But we could watch Clown of the Dead, Hell's Kitty, or The Inhuman Witch. Again, that's if we do it. Oh, and I have, let me see. We can do this. I will not hand these out now, but let me ask, because I want to watch it myself. I've been waiting to watch this. I have 4 copies of that movie Spell that I've been talking about all week. Do any of you guys want a free copy, a digital copy of the movie Spell? And I'll take a little note and I'll send it over to you. It's totally up to you guys. I was thinking, I was like, I could give all 5 away, but it's like $10 to rent. And I was like, I kind of want to watch it. It does remind me a lot of like Tales from the Crypt. So I like those type of things. Not that it's an anthology, but just looks kind of like a basic creepy movie. The reviews haven't been that great for it. The reviews are basically like, it's a mediocre horror movie. But again, can you really trust the reviews on a lot of stuff? So, oh, dude, that moon's super spooky. If not, hold on. The moon's making a cross in the sky. I don't know if I can show this to you guys, but there's like a cross. Let me see if I can take a picture of it with my phone. I don't, because the exposure and all that stuff. Go out and look at the moon, guys. Real quick. Oh, come on. The other way. Dude, that's spooky, man. It's like... So... That's not helpful at all, right? But you can see the Here, hold on. Some paranormal activity stuff here. Okay, so can you see on my window? Okay, you see the moon there? You see how it's pretty much shining right into my apartment? Do you even see the cross on there? I don't know how well it comes across, but it's because the way the clouds are positioned, looks like there's a moon cross flying right into my room. It's too cold to go look. Dude, there's an interstellar event happening. And Leo's like, no, I'm cool, bro. The moon's cracking open, a dragon's coming out. He's like, oh, I don't know, man. I got to put on my pajamas. Let's see here. I'm going to write this down. Probably. The Men in Black probably will come after me. And yeah, Joel, they are the aliens. They're getting their teleportation beam ready. Hey, I was going to ask. Someone, the last live stream, recommended I watch that true crime Netflix documentary about Chris Watts. Was it one of you guys or was it somebody else? Because I wanted to give him a shout out on the show, but I didn't remember who it was. Oh, that's my box of envelopes. I got to send out more stickers. What happened to my... Oh, yeah. Let's get the spooky back in. There we go. Let's get a spooky again. See, I got my glow-in-the-dark skeleton from the dollar store. See how it went all out, dude? I talked about it on my show. I was like, oh, I spent all my money at the dollar store buying Halloween stuff. There you go. That was $1. That was exactly $1, that skeleton there. So thirsty, man. I drank so much chocolate. I didn't drink so much chocolate. I ate so much chocolate. So, what were we talking about? Hear that? It's spooky. People walking by my place, like, oh, dude, that's what you live in a bad neighborhood. These are my fake swords. Is for safety, because otherwise, I see, I'll mess around. Like, I could have brought out the real ones and be like, hey, look at me, I'm Leonardo. I'm going to do it now, but I think we've shown these to you before. This, well, I like that glimmer and the candlelight. I mean, it's a real sword. It's not like forged by a ninja master or anything like that. But don't mess around with it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, but I keep that by my door. This is a shock stick or a power stick. It's to practice. You do that over and over again because it weighs more than a regular bat. Did I ever tell you my tip? If you want an old school Jason tip? So what I used to do. This is where I got this. I have a couple more. Every time I go to the Goodwill, That's okay, Barfy Man. We may not do it. It's totally up to you guys. But don't feel obligated to stick around and watch a movie. Whenever I go to a Goodwill store, I'll usually buy a bat, baseball bat, because it's covered in fingerprints. And so what you do is this bat, right? It's people have had it all over, ton of fingerprints on it, and then I don't do this anymore. I don't do this anymore. But back when I was a punk, you get a dollar store. You get not a dollar store baseball bat. I made that mistake once. I bought a dollar store hammer and it shattered. But anyways, you buy a baseball bat at a Goodwill and you smash stuff up real good. You smash it. You wear gloves and then you just leave the bat. Just toss it on the ground and leave. And you never. Here's a piece of advice: don't ever do anything that's going to require people to take your fingerprints. Don't murder people. You're like taking down notes. You're like, oh, awesome, Jason. Don't murder people. Don't set stuff on fire. But yeah. But if you are going, and then that way you can just leave it there. Don't use the bat. Don't use your autographed Sammy Sosa bat. That he's like, to Jason, I love you so much, and has your address on there. Sammy Sosa knows your address. Don't do that. Just buy a cheapo bat. But don't do that stuff anyways. I would recommend not smashing people's private property. But yeah, I think I want to do more ghost stuff. That's lacking. And I talked about that on the show. I always thought we'd do more ghost stuff. It's just hard to find. So much of it is like a guy wakes up and there's like a dude walking by. I mean, that's spooky. They're actually not even that good. Most of the ghost stories aren't even that good. It's like, here's a haunted house. Most of the ghost stories are like, you're like, Jason, tell us why you act like a basically a frightened kitten. There's people yelling outside. The most ghost stories are, here's a spooky asylum, and they say that a young woman hung herself 200 years ago, just long enough that you don't have to be, you can't check it, you can't fact check it. Ghost walks around at 3 a.m. That's dumb. Jam. I think Jan's asking the question, what about ghost ages? Do we have any consensus of what age ghosts become? Yeah, Leo, send me. I have been getting personal ghost stories from people, and we've actually covered one or two of them recently. Those stories are actually, like, again, it depends. Like, there's a couple things. Like, is it creepy, or does it kind of give you a different layer? And I'll answer your question in a second, Jam. But are they creepy, or are they interesting in the sense that it gives us another layer to ghost mythology? Like, a story about a ghost may or may not be spooky, but if it's about a ghost like that's stuck in between two floors because the building was raised and then rebuilt and you can see only half a ghost, that's an interesting ghost story, because you're thinking, where is the ghost actually haunting? We covered something like that with the piano playing in midair because they destroyed the building and there was a floor shorter, and when you're on the roof of the building you can hear the piano play. We did cover Bandage Man a while back, actually. I've always liked that. I have an old book of ghost stories, Oregon ghost stories. The ghost stories you really have to find in books. I've learned that. The best ghost stories I've gotten from books. And then with Jam, let's see, as far as ghosts, do they age or they age when they die? Let's go with to answer this question, because that's a really interesting question. So thank you for asking that. Let's look at the general, like the idea of what a ghost is. It's where somebody, let's take get rid of the demonic and stuff like that. And when somebody dies, their spirit is left here either because they haven't finished something or it's a recording of an emotional time in their life. So those are the two versions of ghosts. Sometimes if you go to Scotland, there's some chick getting dragged down a hallway, and she's screaming. And that replays every November 1st, and that's the day that this queen died or something like that. So that would be like a spectral haunting. I can answer that, Joel, too. We've talked about that, I think, on the show, but maybe not. But if you imagine, like, let's say I died right now, my ghost you would imagine would be 44 years old, because that's the age my physical body died. However, you do ask, you have an interesting question there is, like, let's say when I'm in the afterlife, do I want to be 44-year-old Jason? What if I want to be 20-year-old Jason? That's an interesting question. So to answer your first question, I think that you pretty much are the age of the ghost that you die. But I don't think, when we think of age, we think of the limitations that come from it. There's someone really stomping around outside. But when we think of age, we think of the limitations that come from it. If you're 80 years old, we look at an 80-year-old guy, we're like, oh man, look at, he can't really get around that much. Look at, he stands up and his hip hurts and stuff like that. We look at the physical limitations of it, but his mind, his consciousness is 80 years old. He's had 80 years of experiences. So if you looked like you were 80 years old, but you felt like you were 20, it doesn't really matter. Like, all of your pain and everything wouldn't be there. So at 44 years old, I wake up, I got to take some Tylenol, some ibuprofen. I wake up and stuff like that. If I was a ghost, I wouldn't do that. It wouldn't matter how old I looked. It really matters how old you would feel. So if a ghost was 80 years old or 4 years old, I don't think that physically I would imagine it would look like an 80-year-old man. But it wouldn't walk around. I think it'd be breakdancing and stuff like that. It could do whatever it wanted, because the physical limitation of being 80 years old is gone. That would be my guess. And then again, choosing your age in the afterlife, I think. I mean, if the afterlife is forever, and maybe I want to be 22 for the first 3 trillion years, and then maybe I want to be 44 again, and I think time is limitless, and you could pretty much do anything at that point. Joel, why are there no caveman ghosts? I think we have talked about it on the show. I know that I've talked to people about it personally. The idea is this. There's 2 options, actually. One is that ghost energy dissipates. That's why most of the ghosts are from at the latest medieval, colonial ghosts, like Abraham Lincoln's post-colonial. But you don't have ghosts from the Dark Ages. You don't have ghosts from 300 AD. Most of the ghosts we see, really most of the ghosts that people report are within their lifetime. There may be 100, maybe not in their lifetime. Most of the ghosts in America are antebellum and forward. So you'll have Civil War ghosts. You'll have people before the Civil War. But so how come there's not ghosts of? How come when you're walking around Israel, there's not like Goliath? Goliath goes walking down the street, pushing people over. Because the energy would dissipate. If we believe in that idea that ghost is some sort of... Because again, you can never interact with them. It's just like watching a movie. You can't change it. But I think that there's a time limit to that. So you don't run into caveman ghosts the same reason why you don't run into ghosts of Genghis Khan. You don't run into ghosts really, I would say, before the year 1700. You're not seeing Christopher Columbus ghosts. Now, there is a exception to that. I will say that some of these ghosts could become nature spirits. Like a caveman's ghost could be the reason why when you go to a particular spring in the middle of Malaysia that you feel refreshed other than just the water, and that you brought Irish Spring. Maybe I'm turning that back down. Maybe it's something like that. So maybe those old spirits become nature spirits. So that's the answer. I'm not saying that's the definitive answer. Like, you have to believe that, but that's how I think it is. I think that ghosts probably have a lifespan of about 300 years. I've been wondering if the Bible, this is Barfy Man, I've been wondering if the Bible actually says anywhere that human souls can't remain on earth. Does it definitely say that we go to heaven or hell immediately when we die? Um, that's an interesting question. It if I remember correctly, it does. It talks about um so I'll answer that in a question. Second jam. Yeah, I was actually going to show you guys that. And I was going to ask you about it too, but I think it actually does say in the Bible. Well, it's funny because when you look at the Bible, like the term hell is in debate because in the Old Testament it's referred to as Sheol, or there's an actual physical place in Israel where people would dump their bodies, and it was kind of like that's where you go when you die. And then later on in the again, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a biblical scholar, but my father is. And so it's all second, third hand information. But and I've done my own research on it, obviously, but I'm not a scholar. But yeah, I've heard that the idea of hell is morphed a lot. Like if you look at other parts of the Bible, they talk about how hell is freezing cold. It's a place of no energy or life, or it's been interpreted that way at least. But yeah, I believe in the Bible. There are, like, it talks in the Bible that talking to spirits, it says talking to spirits is like a sin that can get you killed. Using divination or talking to spirits. Here's the thing: if you couldn't do that, then why would it be a sin punishable by death? If it was impossible to do, because there are other things about like grifting and ripping people off. If it was impossible to communicate with spirits, why would that be listed as one of the? It's not lying to people about it. It's actually doing it can get you killed. So it's always a weird thing. Christianity has a weird thing with magic because on the one hand, people are like, it doesn't exist. It's not real. And then a bunch of parts of the Bible, they're like, oh no, magic's totally real, bro. So I don't know. That's a good question, though. I'll have to look that up, Barfy, to see exactly what that is. Let's see. Jam. I found a Ghost Town U channel, Ghost Town Living. You know what's funny? I didn't watch that video, Jam, but I saw that pop up on my recommendations as well. That would be dope. I've always, like, I remember I was like, it was not too long ago. I was watching a video about a ghost town you could buy, and I was like, oh, that'd be so dope. There'd be no internet, though, so I wouldn't be able to do my show. And then, yeah, so my setup, what I did, it was pretty simple. I bought one of these, and I bought a $50 Mogami cable. So this right here is an interface that I can plug right in via USB. This is what I've been using for the past 2 years. I bought this for $12, and it's just a power supply. And I used a $12 USB cable with my microphone's $1,200, and I don't do that to flex. I'm just always like to say, like, this is a high quality mic and cheap cables. So if you want to do podcast, $1,200. This right here, my dad actually gave me this one just the other day. This is a Blue Yeti, and spooky music. He bought it for my stepmom for Zoom calls during the quarantine, and then he sent it here. And this is a good mic for live streaming. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's super spooky. It's a little girl going la la. Can you hear that now? I'm turning it down either way. But anyway, so the problem was that I was getting to the point where I was starting to have trouble with that $12 cable, and they don't make it anymore. And I kept buying other variations of the same cable, and they all sucked. So I thought, okay, if they don't make this cable anymore, I lose it, and it stops working, I'm boned. It is Veronica finally haunting us. So I had to invest in a new set. So does it sound the same? Because I'm fine with it sounding the same. It needs to sound the same or better. If it sounds worse, then I have a problem. But if it sounds the same, then issue. And I'm going to go back in here, read one of these here, a couple of these. Okay, yeah. Burnt Toast Ghost mentioned the idea of celebrity ghosts. You see a lot of those. I've seen Valentino pop up in a bunch. Um, yeah, there's a big thing with celebrity ghosts. It kind of makes sense because we know where they live, we know how they died, and we know what they looked like. How long does this go on for? I'm gonna like it, so it'll pop up every so often, but I'm gonna skip it because it's. Um, yeah, the thing with ghosts is a lot of times, like, let's say you're in a house and every so often you get a cold chill, and you never knew anyone died there. You'd be like, oh, I gotta fix the draft or something like that. But if you were in a house, if you were in Elvis Presley's house, and all your peanut butter your peanut butter's missing when you wake up, there's no bread, you're gonna go, oh, I know Elvis Presley used to live here, and he's dead now. Um, Yeah, I used to work at Guitar Center back in the day. I'm talking with Jam's question about the Focusrite and the Mogami. That was the thing. People are always like, it comes down to your cables. You could have the best gear and the cables suck and everything like that. This Focusrite, it was about $100, but I'm doing the payment plan. It's like $20 a month through Amazon, which is cool. And the cable was $50. But I had just returned $30 of other cables. Or maybe $40 of. I was buying cables, returning them, buying cables, returning them. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm just going to get name brand stuff. And then people seem to say it sounds the same. Barbie Man says it sounds better. Biggest influence in the signal chain will come from the mic. Yeah, I'm fine with it sounding the same. And the thing is like right now, the only thing I've changed is the interface. I haven't changed anything else. So maybe I'll start fiddling more with stuff. But if it sounds the same, I'm totally fine with that. I was just worried because I got this recliner that I was going to cut my cable. Sorry, I was looking at that. I was looking at something else about YouTube. I was afraid I was going to cut my cable, and then if the spare cables weren't working. But no, we got to get set up. Thank you, guys. Thank you, because that allows me to buy stuff for the show. Now, speaking of YouTube, let's have a little YouTube powwow real quick. Guys, there's a pretty big chance that this channel is going to get taken down. Not the podcast, but there's a chance that the YouTube channel may get taken down at some point when they keep doing these conspiracy purges. Because obviously, if you listen to the show, you'll be like, oh no, this guy's not. He's not that kind of conspiracy theorist. He's not like ranting and raving and trying to convince people and all this stuff and da-da-da-da-da. But you know how these places work. They just take a giant sickle and they just like anything that's sticking up a little bit out of the norm, it just, and we're still so low on subs. At 10,000 subs, I get a dedicated person from YouTube that I can talk to. Leo, it's funny. He just says so many conspiracy debunkers are getting demonetized. That episode I did, The Lady Vanishes, recently, there was 3, that was an episode I covered. I did 3 stories on that. I did stories about the woman, the alien showing up and saying, you should be used to this by now. The second story was about Bigfoot trying to make a woman kill her parents. And that episode got demonetized for hate speech. They said that I was making fun. I was targeted hate speech towards a minority. And what happened was first, because I always put in the same thing. I go, there's a little bit of harsh language, there's a little bit of violence, and there's a little bit of sex. I put that in, even if it's not in the episode. I put it in. And because that way, because sometimes I've gotten hit and they're like, oh no, that episode was too violent. I was like, what? A guy pushed an alien down the stairs. So I just put a little bit of violence, a little bit of sex, a little bit of language in each one. This episode, I got hit with hate or discrimination towards a protected group based on race, age, or other natural characteristics. Content likely to offend a marginalized individual or group. What? Now, here's the thing. Listen, I don't care. If the episode's not demonetized, I make $1.50 off the episode, roughly, in about 30 days. The episode, if it is demonetized, I make 50 cents. So I'm not making a ton of money doing it anyways. But it's a harbinger. It's a harbinger. If that episode, if that episode can get tagged for hate speech, which again, there was no hate speech in it. There were no jokes about Puerto Ricans. There was no jokes about French people. I mean, maybe the guy reviewed it as his mom went missing in France and thought that was, but whatever. It's their platform, whatever. Like at the end of the day, it's the difference between, do I make $1.50 that month for that video or 50 cents for that video? It's not. But it's a harbinger that I think they're going to start cracking down on even episodes that don't include conspiracy stuff. That episode had no conspiracy content whatsoever. It's about Bigfoot, alien, and a missing person. So we'll see. So just letting you know, and I've said this before, if the YouTube channel disappears, it disappears. We're just going to stay on the podcast side. I'm not going to play that game where I'm re-uploading it and trying to do that and da-da-da-da-da. And then... the lady vanishes. It was the episode that came out on Thursday. There was nothing in it. And it was funny because they originally demonetized it and you can request a review. And I go, why'd you demonetize it? That would be funny. That would be funny, Leo, if they have like a Wikipedia link. They're like, this is what Bigfoot really is. Yeah, Barfy Man, you'll listen to it. And I would be shocked if you found me. First off, I would be shocked if you found me in any episode delivering hateful content, doing that. That would be weird in and of itself. You'd be like, what, dude? That's totally messed up that you said that. But that episode, definitely not. Like, maybe his dad is a French cop. I don't know. I have no idea what could have, because I think I might have said something about French cops in that one. I don't know. I don't even know. But again, it's their platform. Whatever. They're going to demonetize it. There's nothing I can do about that. And my thing is, because it's a daily show, I just move on to the next episode. But I'm only bringing that because I don't play that game. I know a lot of YouTubers, they complain about being demonetized and stuff like that, and they limit their. Oh, let me ask you that, guys. What would you guys prefer if we have the option? Some episodes don't appear on YouTube. Some episodes only appear on the podcast side. They are still free. I'm not charging extra for them. They're not exclusive to Patreon people or anything like. You guys get exclusive stories because I'll talk about them on the live stream. But if I'm going to do a conspiracy theory that I think could garner the rage of YouTube, how would you guys feel if I only and it wouldn't be a regular thing, but maybe once a month or once every 2 weeks, there's an episode that doesn't appear on YouTube. And I will announce, hey, tomorrow's episode is not going to be on YouTube. It's a little more controversial. How would you guys feel about that? I guess really the thing is, how many of you guys listen to it primarily on YouTube? Okay. Leo and Barfy Man. Hey, T-Man, what's up? Yeah, okay, good. Because I've thought about that. There are topics that if I wanted to, okay, that's awesome. It's 100% what I wanted to hear. Hey, T-Man, that's 100% what I wanted to hear, because there's some topics that I think YouTube would, and they're not super controversial. But when they're shutting down QAnon channels and anti-QAnon channels, like shutting them down, I can't tank that hit. If the YouTube channel gets taken down, and to say, we talked about Twitch and stuff like that and Steam. I think you misspoke when you said Steam, but Twitch, here's the thing. Like, I literally hit a button when I publish my episode, I'm done for the day, dude. Even if I've done most of my recording the night before, I'm editing it and I'm just so tired. When I hit that publish button, I already know what YouTube video I'm going to watch, or I'm going to go make dinner, or I'm going to play some Minecraft or whatever. I'm done. So if I had to then, I used to upload stuff. I'll answer that in 1 minute, T-Matt. But remember I used to upload it in bits, and I cut each episode in half, and episodes would be 15 minutes. There'd be two. First off, people were like, they don't like that because if they're regular listeners of the show, they would miss segments. It wasn't laid out well. So that's why I stopped doing it. But the other reason why that took an extra hour and a half sometimes. And then I got a new computer that didn't even have that program on it that I could do that, where I couldn't split them in half. It took way too much time. So just hitting that publish button and having it show up on that and then YouTube is perfect. If I have to go and start turning it into a video file and putting it on Twitch or putting it on BitChute or putting it on no. So T-Matt, how do I make money through the podcast? It's through the Patreon. I make $300. They get a little bit of a cut, but on average, I make about $300 a month through the Patreon, and then I make around $50 a month through YouTube. But they only pay you out if you've made $100. So basically, every 2 months, I get $100 from YouTube, and every month I get $300 from Patreon, and that's what keeps the show going. We're still, I was thinking like you could I like doing the movie reads. I like giving the movies out to you guys as well. I have 4 copies of that. If you guys want a copy, I'm going to keep one because I want to watch it. But I like doing the movie reads, and I like getting free movies, and I like supporting movies as well. But, what ads could I sell? Right now we have, on average, about 2,000 listens per episode, which is great. Most of those are on the podcasting side. And there's probably like an extra 400. And that's within 30 days. Usually in the first 7 days, it hits about 1,000 downloads per episode. But like, what would I even sell? And it would have to, look at, dude, I could do Audible tomorrow. I could sign up for an affiliate program. You can see this expression on my face. See, T-Man, that would be dope. Like I was thinking about that. Like if it was like a book company that was doing cryptids and stuff like the eggs. Yeah, the egg ads. Where's my money, man? It's too much incense. But yeah, first off, the murder mystery box would be cool as well. A lot of those things are affiliate programs. So I could look into doing that, Leo, making a new shirt with the new logo on it. That's actually not a bad idea, or the sticker logo. And I still got more stickers to send out too. I'm behind on that, but I don't want to do Audible. Like, you know what I mean? Like first off, let's say there's 2,000 of you guys. I'd have to read an Audible ad every single episode, and 1% of you guys would join. So what's that, like 20? And I'd have to read an ad every single episode. No. And everyone already has Audible, right? Like, or have tried it out in the past and stuff. I don't know. If I could find a cool sponsor. And Audible's great. I'm not dissing Audible. I'm not saying Audible sucks or anything like that, but that's how it works. I could today sign up with an Audible account, and if you sign up with Audible under my account, I get $20. So if I promoted it every single episode for a given amount of time, 90 days, I could make $400. Actually, that's not bad when I'm doing the math. But again, you have to do the ad constantly. So you kind of have to weigh that stuff out. How much ads do I want to do? I don't want to do a lot. It's a daily show. I never want to get to the point where some podcasts, the first 2 minutes are ads and then there's ads in the middle. I'd rather do ads in the middle. I'd rather have a 30-second or minute-long ad in the middle, probably not a minute. And then there you go. Move on to the next thing. So that's kind of the thing. Rage, Shadow Language, Rage, Shadow Legend. Probably could set up with that. You know what's funny? Barfy Man, the other day my little brother hit me up and he's like, hey, dude, you got to watch this video. Here's the thing. Like, people send you stuff all the time and I'm always grateful for it. Always grateful for it. So my little brother, though, he sends me this video the other day. He's like, hey, dude, you got to check this video out. It's about creepy video games. And I remember thinking, people's definition of creepy are different. My little brother's definition of creepy. Dude, Odd Header is a dope channel. If you guys have not checked out Odd, I'm actually going to cover some of the stuff he covered. I was shocked at some of the stuff because again, like you go to and even my little brother was like, yeah, dude, you watch these videos and it's like creepy video game mysteries. And it's like, how did this thwomp chase down Luigi or some dumb stuff, right? Odd Header has some creepy stuff in his video game. Like you're watching and you're like, that's legitimately scary video game stuff. And it's funny because I had never heard of the guy before. He puts out real good videos. And it's funny because I was watching this and I was talking to my little brother about this too. I go, he does what I do. Or every time he gets a story, he goes, I got this story from so-and-so on Discord. I got this story from so-and-so on Reddit. I got this story. And it makes people give you more stories. 100%. Like, I was like, that's how he's getting such good stuff. Because he'll do like top 10 videos. He did like a top 10 video of game glitches. And it's some straight, it's not like I clipped through a Nintendo 64 Perfect Dark. It's straight up like I built an enemy in Shadow of War and he survived it when I deleted the save and he showed up in another game later. Like creepy stuff. Check out Oddheader. I'm actually going to cover some of the stuff and I'm going to give him credit. I'll be like, hey, I got this from Oddheader's video. Check it out because he does. Check out Oddheader. I'm so glad you brought that up. Blame it on Jorge. That's familiar too. And Rainbot. I think I've watched some of his stuff. I just watched the Nexpo video for the first time the other day, and I'm not saying that his name like that out of disrespect. I've heard of him. I never watched any of his stuff before, but it was very well produced, interesting story. I've been watching that chapter a lot. Is Nightmind and Nexpo the same thing? Or are those two different? Hey, Losing a Game, thank you for my hat. Yeah, Oddheader, Barfy Man. Yeah, if you check it out. I'm saying you've the one who recommended it to me, but he's saying that, yeah, he did one on an obscure video game that Barfy Man didn't even know existed. Like Oddheader is the Dead Rabbit Radio of video games, or I'm the Oddheader of paranormal stuff. 100% check out Oddheader. Yeah, and thank you, Barfy Man, that you're interested in that. That chapter has been really good. That Leo, we were talking about that. There's another one called JCS Psychology, which is because I've gotten really back into. That's funny. I might have seen that one, Nightmind, unedited footage of a bear. I did watch some back when I was into those Adult Swim. Those are pretty cool too. Like, I won't give them credit for that. I watched some of those like breakdowns, so I might have seen Nightmind back there, but I can definitely check that out. Yeah, I wish I remembered who recommended me to watch that Chris Watts documentary last time. I might just have to go back and rewatch that old stream because I want to give him a shout out because I watched it and it's really good. And that got me back into true crime a lot. I've been kind of flirting with it for a while, but what I've been doing, I've been watching that chapter. And then I've been watching JCS Psychology, where he replays. I think there's too much smoke. There we go. The magic of the podcast. I'm going to move this. Am I getting blurry? There we go. JCS Psychology. He'll play a whole interrogation video, and he'll chime in every once in a while. It's really good. Like, it's actually better that he's not interrupting it all the time, but they'll just play the video out, and you'll just be looking at this person who deserves to be in there. Again, like you're watching it, and you're like, this guy. He did one where there was an innocent man in there, and we know after the fact that he was innocent, and he's just like, I didn't do it. Totally didn't do it. He wasn't mad or anything that he was arrested, and they're like, we have video of you doing it. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, man. Can I see it? Because I didn't do it. So I know I'm not on the video. And they're like, you did it, man. Just admit you did it. He's like, I'm not. I'm not going to. And he ended up like getting charged and going to jail, and then it turns out that it wasn't him. But a lot of times it's like murderers and stuff like that. And you know they belong in that room, but it's watching them try to defend themselves. He had an hour-long video about this woman who murdered her lover's ex-wife. And it was during like the LA gang crisis. So the cops are like, oh, she must have gotten killed by some Mexicans, whatever. And then 20 years pass and they're like, hey, let's go check on that cold case because the crime rate had dropped. And they started testing because at first because there was a series of break-ins where these Mexican gangsters were breaking into this neighborhood. They didn't just think that. They had these other suspects. They never caught them apparently either, but it was a former cop It was this woman who used to be a cop that they finally figured out was her, and they trick her into coming into the interrogation room because you have to check your gun in before you go in there. So they said, "Yeah, we just want to talk to you about something, not related to murder. No murder. What are you talking about? Here, check your gun in." They all go in this room and they're chatting, and the whole video, it's like an hour long, and he'll stop every so often to show the game that's going on. Check that out. JCS Psychology is really good. And then Barely Sociable is one that I hear about a lot. I don't think I've seen any of his stuff. Frederick Knudsen is down the rabbit hole, right? I've seen some of his stuff. His stuff's really good. I've watched Wang. He puts out good stuff. There's a lot of good people in this community. Like, there really are a lot of really good mystery solvers. Down the rabbit hole. I've watched a couple of his. I think he did one on Wings of Redemption, which there's a lot of that. I like learning about YouTubers and falls from grace and stuff like that. I think it basically, I'm like, what not to do? Don't drink on camera. Don't do all this stuff. And most of it's common sense, obviously. Like, one of the things that I don't want to feel like I'm throwing shade at other people, but some of the things I don't like is when people treat the Patreons different than the people who don't support the Patreon. That really turns me off as a listener. And that's just through common sense. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and people will be like, "Oh yeah, you freeloaders get this episode, but if you really want to support," no. Everyone supports the show in their own way. You guys are great because you guys can help me buy equipment, buy groceries. If you can't support the Patreon, I totally mean it, dude. I totally understand. I just wish, my hope is that those people, and you guys as well, promote the show. That's totally fine. It's really hard to kick down cash every month. And I also didn't want to do a tier system where it's like at $5 you get to do the live stream. If you can support me with $5, that's fine. If you can support me with $1, that's fine. But anyways, I've heard other shows where they do that, and that's kind of a turn off. But yeah, Wings of Redemption, and then DSP. I don't remember, was that the guy who was the drunk streamer? Mouse Utopia, I've heard about before. That was where they got all the mice to get your Sims. Yes, I'm like, yes, give me your money. No, dude, I totally get it. And I've had people leave the Patreon, and then I still mailed them out their sticker. There was one person who recently, like right before I had gotten some stickers in, she had quit the Patreon. I sent her the sticker and I sent her the letter, and I was like, "Hey man, it's totally fine. You've earned your sticker. I don't ever want to make people feel bad." I've watched, again, I'm not trying to throw shade, but Onision, apparently there was a video where, and this was before I even started doing Dead Rabbit Radio, or at least before I started doing the Patreon. There was a video someone did on Onision where he had, it's funny because I'm saying I'm not throwing shade at Onision, but he has a huge reputation that a lot of people, there may be legit reasons to throw shade at him, but I was watching this video and someone had stopped donating $5 to his Patreon, and he started, I don't know if he's registered. See, that was the thing. I don't want to get into that. I know Chris Hansen showed up to his house, but he's coming out with a new investigation. So I always enjoy a good Chris Hansen investigation. Onision, someone stopped supporting the podcast for $5, and he started messaging her, because we can obviously message you your emails. We get your email addresses and stuff like that. "Hey, why'd you stop giving me $5? And she's like, "Well, I just don't really watch the show anymore." It was a totally like norm supporting the Patreon, and said, "I'm too skeptical for stuff that I don't believe." That's 100 totally fine. Most of the times it's my financial situation has changed. That's totally fine. And other people say, "Stop listening." That's fine too, man. Like, I get it. People go in and out of fan bases and in and out of fandoms and stuff like that. I'm no different than anything else. Onision, though, starts talking to this girl, and it's like, "Hey, are you guys getting lag? Are you guys lagging?" Is it working a little bit better now? Can you hear it okay? Or am I moving too much? I shut off my spooky music, which was streaming via Spotify. Is it the speed issue? Okay. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I know that that's a bummer. Um, well, I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, he started stalking this girl over $5, saying, "Why'd you stop supporting my show?" And he goes, and she's like, "Well, because I stopped listening to it." And that went on and on and on for a while. And I remember watching that video, and I'm like, "Bro, dude, it's $5, dude. Like, it's $5." And so when I started doing the pay, I always thought it was so weird. Then when I started doing Patreon, and people were like, "Hey, I'm not donating any more money," I was like, "Man, I hope he still listens to the show." Um, yeah, now you keep listening to the show. Like that guy who said he wanted to stop supporting the show. Totally fine. I hope he still listens to the show. Um, yeah, now I'm getting a little error about the connection is unstable. I wonder what would happen if I switched. I wonder if that would kick me down if I switched it in the middle. Big aliens, bro. The aliens may be trying to silence me. No, you guys are awesome. All my listeners are awesome. I've always like sometimes I'm like you're always afraid you're going to get the troll who starts like tracking down people you're talking about and being like, "You suck," and Jason Carver says you're dumb, and da 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 da. You guys have been awesome. I haven't had any problems. I haven't had any issues with you guys starting issues with other people. Because the conspiracy paranormal, it's a rowdy bunch. You know what I mean? Like people, we're already like so interested in fringe topics. We're already feel like outsiders. And so when you have a group of outsiders, normally when outsiders come together, they're really chill because because everyone feels kind of like an outsider. And even if you're not an outsider in your daily life, there may be stuff you talk about that you wouldn't talk about with your friends, but you'll listen to on the show. You'll be like, you're not going to walk up to your friend. Maybe you will, but most people won't walk up to their friend. But you know what I mean? Like we do have an outsider view of things. So sometimes you think that you might get some more weirdos, but we don't. I think you guys are totally awesome. But yeah, Down the Rabbit Hole, I've watched that. There was some other channels that I've been watching recently. There's a channel called Chilling Stories to Tell in the Dark. Well, I think the reason we're so chill is because we're not for you. Yeah, I think that the community. I think definitely this is a community, and I think it's a combination. I think that if I stop talking about paranormal, if I stop talking about those subjects, I think people would be like, eh. So I think it's a combination between the community and the topics. It's really easy to get big for your britches. It's really easy for a podcast or a YouTube channel to go, "Oh, dude, I have this huge following. I can start doing episodes about." It's funny because I think the internet's goofy again. There was a time when I thought about changing some stuff up, and I actually was like, "Nope, not going to do that." Not going to do that. It wasn't drastic. I was just going to start doing some historical stories, more historical, not weird history, just history. And I was like, no, not yet, and probably never. I think I've sprinkled one or two in, like, but see, the Troy story fit in with the theme of the show. It was a conspiracy theory based on did the Trojan. So you can figure out the stuff that you want to do and all that stuff. The problem. That's funny. T Matt says so many channels are just copying all their content directly from Reddit posts that they may have posted. That's a conspiracy theory right there, right? That's a conspiracy theory. The one thing that turns me off is when I see it mostly on YouTube, not so much on podcasters, when they just read the post. On that one, that's totally fine. Yeah, the Civil War one was cool, but again, I have to limit those. I really have to limit those out. I don't mind talking about stuff on Reddit. I actually think it's a really good source of information. Stuff. I don't like it when they just read the Reddit posts. A lot of times when I go to a YouTube video and I realize they're just reading an article, I just find the article and read it myself because I can read the article in like 3 minutes. Even if they're doing commentary on it or something, I'm like, just read the article. So a lot of times I'll go and it could be a political podcast because those pop up all the time. Like this, actually not even political, but it'll be like Kathleen Kennedy comes out against the new Star Wars, something like that. And I click on the video and it's a guy going, "Hey guys, what's up?" And then I can tell by the way he's talking, he's just reading an article. Sometimes they don't actually tell us he's, like sometimes he'll mention it and make it sound normal. And I'm like, dude, I'm just going to type in Kathleen Kennedy says something about Star Wars and just read the article myself. So I don't mind covering Reddit posts, but reading them. And that's interesting, T-Mad. That would be crazy if people were like, dude, I found a crazy Reddit post about some like elf living in a woman's closet. And then they wrote it. That'd actually be a pretty good idea. I mean, I wouldn't do that because that's super slimy. I mean, I already gave you guys advice on how to break into cars. Why are my eyes so squinty? I think it's that light, that spooky light. But yeah, I'm wondering how many people actually do that. I wonder how many people actually make up. It's interesting. Because if you have, I mean, here's the thing, like with this podcast, it's a daily show. And it's not easy finding stories sometimes, but we have a big range of stories. And if an episode, if it's a swing and a miss, then we move on to the next episode. If I come out with an episode, I don't think I've done a sucky episode lately. I've had some episodes that have been real stinkers in the past, but yeah, if I have a bad episode, then it's Friday's episode. You just move on to the next episode or something like that. If you've been spending weeks, if you come out with an episode a month or an episode a week or something like that, yeah, you need to have each episode. I'm not saying I put out junk. I'm not saying that I shovel out junk. I'm not saying I do it every day, so who cares? But you know what I mean? I've thought about that before. Like if I spent a week preparing an episode and it got demonetized, I would be more upset. That's mostly where that comes into play. When I'm like, someone spent a month clipping all these videos and it gets demonetized or gets copyright striked or something like that. I've gone copyright striked. I'm like, whatever. I'm moving on to the next episode. This episode's demonetized. Whatever. I'm moving on to the next episode. So I just put out more content. But all of that stuff is only on the YouTube side. On the podcast side, I don't even think about it. Shrouded Hand. I think I've heard them as well. Again, because I'm always kind of just clicking on stuff. That name sounds familiar as well. Shrouded Hand. Creepy Tales to Tell in the Dark. I actually got an email from them a while back, and they asked me if I wanted to work with them on these type of thing. And I think it is time to start branching out. I know I talked about that. Oh, that reminds me. Someone recently asked about the bonus stuff. Where did that go? Leo, what made you do the podcaster's commentary? I don't know if Leo's still here. Hopefully he is. There's two reasons why I started doing, because they're for the oh, hey Leo, okay, perfect. Sorry. So, the bonus episodes. What happened was it was super weird. But for the first 10 seasons, maybe not that, first 8 seasons, I would do 50 episodes. People would be every month. This is behind the scenes. Every month I would see the downloads each day get a little higher. So it'd be like 1,000 downloads a day during the week, and then it would drop down to 200 downloads on the weekend. And then the next month it would be like 1,100 downloads during the week, and then drop down to 300, and it'd go on and on. But when I took a week off, it would take 30 episodes to get back to 1,000 downloads an episode. You removed a week of stuff and people forgot about it. People stopped getting alerts on their phone or their YouTube, and people stopped. It would always set me back about 300 listeners. And then I would slowly get those listeners back up over the next 50 episodes. And then I would do my season finale, and it would drop down, and it would take me 30 episodes to get back up to that. So I was like, screw this. This is super weird. I don't know why. I don't know why this is happening, but it's happening. So I thought I need to keep. I mean, I know why it's happening, because a week of no content, even though most shows are only every other week or every week, you get used to a rhythm. So when that rhythm is broken, people forget about it. So I started going, Okay, so I need a week off. I 100% need a week off from this show. By the time I hit episode 30, I'm already starting to feel a little burned out. And then I catch my second wind, like the second to last week. But there's a time where I'm just like, I'm just like have a hard time finding stories. I start to question myself. I go, I'm going to do bonus episodes. And I was going to do a little intro for each one. And I've done, I think, 20 bonus episodes so far. The first 15 or some odd, I was like, hey, everyone, this is an episode. I really like doing this episode. This is interesting. I do like a 5-minute intro. And then I remember the last break, not this most current one, but the one before it. I didn't really say anything before the episodes. Because I was getting ready for a vacation. I think I was on vacation when I was recording those. And I remember thinking, I let you guys down. Because see, some people I love to hear behind the scenes stuff. So I've done ones where I've had like maybe a 5-minute intro. And then I did one where I was kind of just so tired. I had recorded a bunch of episodes ahead of time and stuff like that. And I remember being like, oh yeah, this episode. So I thought the next time I do bonus episodes, I'm going to do a full on behind the scenes thing. And then I let you guys pick the behind the scene. And that's what we're doing from now on. I'm going to let the Patreon supporters pick what episodes we do repeats of, because those are episodes I never would have picked. And I actually had a ton of stuff to say. To Leo's question, that was a lot of extra work. There wasn't so much editing because I basically just talked. I wasn't making a product. I basically have a lot of reaction channels. It's a lot easier to read an article and then give a hot take on it and then move on to the next one than it is to craft a story. And even though Dead Rabbit Radio, it's like 2 15-minute stories, they're still like you have to have a beginning, a middle, of an end. You have to have a hook. You have to have all this stuff. There's a little more craft. There's a little more editing that goes on there. With the behind-the-scenes stuff, I was like, here's the episode I just listened to. Here's all the stuff that's happened since then regarding that. And each of those bonus episodes, if you have not heard them, are double the length that they originally were. And when I say I just react and talk to it, it's not me droning on. It's legit. Like I record my stuff if I was a listener. If I was a listener and a podcast that I really liked was going on hiatus, or, they're like, wait 3 months before the next episode of We're Alive or something like that. You're like, oh man. If I was a listener, I would want this show the way that it is. If I was a listener, I would be like, oh, this show is something that I love to listen to while I play Minecraft. I don't listen to the show that much anymore. Because I already listened to it so many times. But every so often I will be like, oh, I'll check out an episode from... I don't remember any of the episodes. I remember certain episodes, but when people were recommending this stuff for me to cover, some of them I was like, I remember that one. And other ones I had to re-listen to because I was like, I have no idea what this episode's about. Because I'm already moved on to the next episode. But if I didn't produce this podcast, I would love this podcast. This podcast is made for me. And it's made for you because we're basically in that same sphere. I would be super every day. I want it to be like wearing my pajamas, jumping up each morning. Yay, podcast. But I know it'd be a pot. And sometimes I'd be listening to it and maybe I'd start to zone out halfway through playing Minecraft or doing dishes or something like that. It's just a matter of having that regular voice there, telling cool stories. And that's what the show is. That's really the mission statement. It's telling cool stories, a buddy for you to hang out with, who sits down every day next to you at work and goes, dude, you won't believe what I read on the internet last night. That's 100% what the show is. And I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy when I listen to it while I'm editing it. Sometimes I'm laughing. I'm laughing like out loud at it. For me, like when I'm recording it, I'm not scared. But there are stories that when I'm researching them, I'm like, oh, this story is super spooky. I want to share this one with you guys. I want to share this one with my listeners. But yeah, it's a spooky thing. So how many people, let's ask this right now. How many people have Amazon Prime? I guess would be my first question. Or we can keep doing the live stream. Again, I'm in no hurry. We can keep doing live stream stuff. if a bunch of you have Amazon Prime, we can go watch one of those 3 movies. It's totally fine. But I'm going to take a drink here, and you guys, because again, I'm still fine doing. It's only like 8:39, but I don't want to keep you guys either. I have no plans. I'm just going to read ghost stories and prepare stuff for next week. But so, did you guys want to do a stream on Amazon? You guys want to keep talking on here? Oh, that's so good. I'm going to grab something to drink real quick. A spooky drink. Nah, it's a regular drink. I'll be right back. With my Ninja Turtle. Heroes in a half shell. Turtle power. Okay, yeah, Leo. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there is a lot of timing and stuff, but I'm glad you were able to join us, dude. I'm glad you were able to join us. Yeah, it's so weird. This is a COVID. I'm cheap, so what I do is I blow out the candle and I let the wax solidify, and then you got more candle, baby. You don't have to get rid of the candle. That's some hobo technology right there. I mean, obviously the candle has melted some. Oh, that's hot. That's hot. But at a certain point, it'll only get so low, and then it'll re-solidify, and then you got more candle. Is that not what you... I think you're supposed to throw it away at a certain point. This candle, I've probably had this candle for like 6 years. I don't use it all the time, but I'm pretty sure that like it no longer is scented. You know, it says it's cinnamon mandarin or cranberry mandarin or something. It doesn't smell anything like that. It's just wax now. All the scent has been washed away. I'm not closing up shop unless you guys want to. I'm just making room for my drink here. Hey, since I have you guys captive, have you guys watched? I've totally been wanting to talk about this on the show, but I know I'm just going to get laughed at. Have you guys watched the 2012 Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles? Have you guys watched that? Because I swear it is so good. And it's spooky, dude. It's made for kids. It's supposed to be like age 7 and up. It's super scary. They've done parodies of Alien and zombie movies, and it's a horror show. Like, you know, you have sci-fi, you have ninjas and stuff like that, but the whole thing's about monsters in the sewer and giant rats kidnapping people, and not Splinter, but other giant rats. But I don't know. Oh, here we go. This is my special drink. I use a little bit of Diet 7-Up. And then I use some of this Invader Zim. Dude, Barfy Man, it's great. I know people didn't like it at first, but it's actually gotten a lot of praise. The new Turtles, people don't like because they made Splinter into a fat hamster. And the Turtles aren't brothers anymore. And Raphael's the leader. And everyone's Michelangelo. But the 2012 version, I've been a lifelong Ninja Turtles fan. And even when I watched a couple episodes of the 2012 version back when it was out, I was like, oh, this is really dope. It's spooky. Like, you can tell the people who are doing it really love it. Invader Zim, dude, wasn't that canceled in like 1997 or something like that? That's old school, dude. My sister loves Invader Zim. I never got into it. I never watched it. It was one of those shows that a lot of people really liked. Invader Zim. It only lasted for like a season, right? It wasn't. Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? Because see, by that time, there was a time period. Like, I used to be really into cartoons as a kid, and then as a teenager, I was really into anime, which I think there's a subset of teenager who goes through that. But they didn't have American anime. There was no. I think Sailor Moon came out. I was long out of high school, and I wasn't even watching anime that much. And I was watching like Akira, Nausicaa of the Wind, the Records of the Lotus War, Vampire Hunter D when these things were first coming out, and you might be able to get a copy of Lum or Dirty Pair or something like that. But see, by the time Invader Zim came out, by the time I remember when the X-Men cartoon came out, I remember watching it one day, like the first episode, and I thought, too old for this. Like, I could tell that I had passed the time period for that. And Invader Zim, see, like my little sister was into that. A lot of people were into that. And I was like, yeah. Again, like I watched Ren and Stimpy and all that stuff. But then, and Aeon Flux, see, that was like when I was younger. But then Invader Zim and all the Powerpuff Girls, I never got into any of that stuff. I was already moved past that. And I'm 100% not saying you have to be a certain age to watch that stuff, because I just talked about how much I watched Ninja Turtles. But I think there was a moment in time where Invader Zim came out. And if you started watching it in that moment of time, you really, really enjoyed that show. You enjoyed the humor. Like, I remember watching Courage the Cowardly Dog. And I remember watching it, and I was thinking, I can see the appeal, but this just isn't working This just isn't working for me. Am I name dropping? You know, the one that I remember, the anime wise, was, I think I told you this before, I saw Akira in the theater in 1988 when it came out. Me and my dad went to San Francisco to watch Akira. And he goes, because I was really into Robotech. And my dad was like, hey, you know, the guys who made Robotech made a movie called Akira. And I was like, really, Dad? He's like, I'm going to take you to go see it. Now, the makers of Robotech did not make Akira. I think my dad was just thinking, you know, it's anime. Akira, super gory. Like, I remember the chick's shirt gets ripped off and they show her boobs. And I was like, at that point, I'd seen boobs. But we weren't allowed to watch rated R movies. It was super violent. I remember sitting in a movie theater watching Akira. And we were like in the Tenderloin district. It was like in some really rundown theater. There was maybe 10 people in the theater, and it was amazing. It is such a good movie. Yeah, I think that is kind of the golden age of anime. But again, see, that's an age thing. And it's funny because, again, it has nothing to do with your age. I think it has to do with other things. Because I remember one day I watched the first episode of Gravity Falls. And I go, now this is a cartoon I can get into. And I remember watching a couple episodes in the beginning of it. And that's been a show that I've wanted to go back and watch. So it's not, and that came out. I mean, I was in my 30s when Gravity Falls came out. But I think you have to kind of be, it's the moment in time thing. I remember going, oh, Gravity Falls, this is like an animated Twin Peaks. Why did my voice do that? This is like an animated Twin Peaks. Yeah, dude, the Pulgasari episode, that's actually really, I mean, I think I kind of told the whole plot in the movie, but I did watch that movie. I did watch the whole North Korean monster movie. And yeah, that was a cool one. It's so, you know what? I was thinking about this today. Remember the reason why I did that week? Because the media was telling us that he was dead. And even in that week, I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's probably not true. And I think about all this stuff that went on this year where they're like, remember it was supposed to be World War III in January. Now, I mean, obviously it hasn't been the best year with, you know, COVID and murder hornets and all that stuff. But I'm just thinking, like they were trying to convince us World War III. Now they're trying to convince us Civil War is coming. There's going to be all this violence after the election. I was like, I don't know, guys. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a couple fist fights. I'm sure people will get jacked up. Like, it sucks. But I don't think it's going to be a civil war. I've talked about that before. But I even said this on a recent episode. I go, whenever someone tries to convince you that doomsday is coming tomorrow, just remember those are the same people who probably try to tell you about the great reset of 2012 or this doomsday date or that doomsday date and there's always a reason why someone's trying to convince you to be scared of tomorrow. And you notice the day always change. Dude, yes. Yeah, Sean Connery, I woke up to that. I woke up to poor Sean Connery having passed away. I was like, wait a second. Now that I think about it, that's the second time we've done a live stream and a celebrity has died. At least this one didn't happen while no, it's okay, Barky Man. Yeah, you're a bit late for that, Leo, and you're fine spamming the topics. Yeah, I woke up. I didn't know he was 90 years old. I was shocked by that fact. But I mean, when you're, I probably do, unfortunately. He had a good life. I remember once I read an article with who's that Caine guy? Michael Caine. Michael Caine and Sean Connery were at a bar together. This was like back in like the 80s or something like that. And Michael Caine, they were both big actors at the time. Michael Caine and Sean Connery were at a bar, and there are these. I'm trying to read this story's by memory, but I guess someone was singing karaoke. This is in Britain. Michael Caine and Sean Connery are sitting at a bar, and there's three people heckling the singer on stage, and Sean Connery tells them to knock it off, and they don't. So Sean Connery gets up and kicks the crap out of these three guys. And Michael Caine's just sitting there. And he's like, yeah, dude, I read that article years ago, so some of the details may be wrong. I know the detail of him beating up three people. That is true. And Michael Caine was there. I don't know if it was at a karaoke bar or like a cribbage match or something like that. But the story, I'm pretty sure it was, I know it was at a bar. I don't remember what prompted it, but Sean Connery kicked the crap out of three dudes who were running their mouth. And Michael Caine was just like, I just sat there. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah, that sucks. He's lived a good life. He had an amazing impact on people around the world. I think probably my favorite movie of his would be The Rock. Like, I never watched any of his James Bond movies, but I watched The Rock, and I watched Zardoz, which is a trippy movie. And I'm sure I've seen him in other stuff. I don't know, man. Daniel Craig's a pretty good James Bond. But I've never been a huge James Bond fan. Zardoz might have the codpiece. It's the one with the head, the floating stone head that vomits guns on a caveman. And you may think I'm taking that scene out of context. That's the whole movie. There's a giant stone head that vomits guns. That's pretty much the movie. I mean, it's super weird. Christopher Lee, yeah, he was a loss as well. You know what sucks, dude? You know who's coming up next are Ian McKellen, and Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart's, I think, in his 70s now, but Ian McKellen's getting up there. And so, that's, yeah, you're going to lose a bunch of wizards. I'm actually surprised. Oh, Sean Connery was in Dragonheart. I was just about to say, wasn't Sean Connery do fantasy at some point? But yeah, we're getting to that point. And it's funny. I've said this too. Like, I'm getting to that age. Sean Connery wasn't one of the actors of my generation. Like, Sean Connery was more from my parents' generation. But I'm getting to that age where you start losing people from your generation, like Luke Perry. Like, that was like, whoa, like Luke Perry died? And he was in his like 49 or maybe 50. Like, that was an actor from my generation. He was still a little older than me, but you know what I mean? We'll get to a point where Britney Spears dies. And I'll be like, no, take me instead, God. Take me instead. Betty White will outlive them all. Yeah, dude, when I don't know if any of the Golden Girls have passed away. I think the oldest one did. But, yeah, you'll get like Bob Ross. I know this always gets depressing. I think this is how we ended our last one, but you'll have these people who pass away. But yeah, you'll get to the age, where, and youngins won't remember Ryan Reynolds. They'll be like, what? You'll be like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds, he was in that Deadpool movie. They're like, what? Like, by the time Ryan Reynolds is 80 years old and dies, people won't remember Deadpool in 40 years. They may know of it. That's the funny thing. Like, all of these, like, Star Wars stuck around for 30 years because you had this insane fan base for it. But I don't think that's going to be and even then, like, if you showed a little kid, if you showed like an 8-year-old Star Wars, they're like, what? This is super slow, dude. Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess it's fine. There's like a robot walking around and stuff like that. But it got old. And we look back and we remember what it was like when we were kids and stuff like that. But like Deadpool, 40 years from now, people are going to be like, Ryan who? And Ryan Reynolds will be this old, shriveled up guy with long fingernails in his mansion that we'll all remember, and we'll be like, oh, that's so sad what happened to Ryan Reynolds. Like, he went crazy. He started breaking the fourth wall in real life, and Then he just died in his mansion one day. And 20-year-old kids will be like, who? The same way that when people die, when they'll be like, Lane Taylor died. She was the star of 20 Westerns. We're like, who the hell's Lane Taylor? And what's a Western? We don't know any of this stuff. It's interesting to see how that happens. Yeah, poor Brittany. Alive or dead. She's not doing too well. But yeah, time just marches on like that. And you just go, hey, wait a second. You don't remember that? You don't remember that actor? Because, your parents will say stuff like that. Oh, no, Lane Thompson? She was great. I used to watch your show with your mom. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? So, yeah, it's weird because those names, Hugh Jackman, all these big names, if they passed away now, it would be huge news. But 40 years from now, people would be like, well, Hugh Jackman, he was in that stupid movie about time traveling in New York or something like that. That's the movie he gets remembered for. So, if you guys want to watch a Amazon movie, we can do that. But I don't know how many of you guys have Amazon Prime, and I can tell from the dead silence you guys don't seem to be super into that, and that's totally fine. David Lynch has to be in his 60s by now. David Lynch has to be in his 60s. Now, it's funny because the average age is what, like 80? And when you're wealthy, it's probably almost guaranteed around 80. You think so? I don't know, man. I think he started off his career pretty young. David Lynch age. Whoa. What did I say? Yeah, he's 74. Look at that dude who's directing... I was only 14 years off. That's pretty good. What about that dude who's directing Mad Max? That dude's in like his 80s. He's directing the new Mad Max. They're going to have Anya Taylor-Joy or Anya J. Taylor, whatever. She's going to be Furiosa. It's going to be a Furiosa prequel. But well, if you think about it, so if David Lynch is 74 years old and the average age is around 80, then yes, we may only have 6 more years of Lynch lunacy, which I hopefully we get another season of Twin Peaks before then, but he could live to be 90 or 100. Yeah, David Lynch, I think, still gets slept on a bit. David Lynch, I still think gets slept on a bit. I think he's hit a ceiling he makes such great films, but they're so bizarre that I think there's a ceiling for that. He doesn't make mainstream. Wouldn't it be interesting to see him do like a mainstream romantic comedy? Like he gets a script and it's Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl, and it's directed by, he was supposed to direct Return of the Jedi. He originally was supposed to direct that movie, and then he left for some reason. Because he did Dune, so they're like, hey, you did Dune, do you want to direct Return of the Jedi? Now, it's funny because I always knew of David Lynch from Twin Peaks first. So when people say about him directing Return of the Jedi, I'm like, what? Were they like supposed to be like little dwarves in red coats? Did Han Solo get sucked into the room? No. I'm assuming he didn't have control over the script. I'm assuming it didn't end up with Luke Skywalker's hand talking to him, just floating in the air and being like, you can defeat Darth Vader. And then like a little eyeball on the palm. And then who knows though, because it's David Lynch. But he was supposed to direct Return of the Jedi. But it would be interesting to see him actually try to do like a Lifetime movie of the... I mean, obviously he could do it in his sleep. That's the thing. Like he's a master filmmaker. But could he resist the temptation to make it weird? Would be, I guess, is my thing. Could Tom Six direct the Lifetime channel movie and not make it super disgusting? Could they actually just do it and get it done? I don't know. I don't even know why I'm talking about that. How did I get into that? We were talking about David Lynch. But yeah, so it would be interesting if they reboot Twin Peaks, if he passed away and they just turn it into a television series. They just totally rebooted it and changed it. Yeah, because David Lynch. Well, it's funny because Dune, I couldn't even finish it. Dune was terrible. I was like, oh, David Lynch directed it, and Kyle MacLachlan is in it, and I think was it Patrick Stewart? Sean Connery, who was someone else was in it, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I watched like the first 30 minutes of Dune, and I'm like, this is trash. This is so bad. So I stopped watching it, and even though it had all these elements that I thought I would like, it was super dumb. You could do Twin Peaks without Lynch; it would just suck. Like ABC or CBS, whoever ran it, or Showtime, could easily hire J.J. Abrams. Now that I've said it and put it out in the universe, it does exist. Twin Peaks is actually a name brand that you could get J.J. Abrams and Damon Lindelof to reboot Twin Peaks and start it from the beginning, and you would have some of the old cast come back. Like you would have them walking to a bar, and Kyle MacLachlan would be like a bartender, and he's like washing a glass, and he hands the drink to the new FBI agent. It's like it would be absolute garbage. Don't get me wrong. It would be terrible, but they would do it. They're already talking about rebooting Lord of the Rings. I know Amazon's doing the series, but Lord of the Rings is 20 years old. You can easily reboot it and kind of keep a bit of the same music and better special effects. It'd be garbage. It would be so bad. But in this time of uncertainty with movies, why not? I was saying, I think they have 15 seasons of Supernatural, because there's going to be no new shows coming out next year. There's going to be no new movies coming out next year. CBS should just start showing Supernatural, and they could show it every night of the week. And these channels that own these huge libraries just start showing them, because there's not going to be any television shows next year, anything new. But there is, now that I've put it out in the universe, J.J. Abrams and Damon Lindelof are going to do a Twin Peaks reboot, and it's going to be absolute trash, and people will watch it. People will watch it because they'll have heard the name Twin Peaks. It's a name brand. It's really hard to get a brand name. It's super hard. Think about it earlier when you guys were like, hey, Barely Sociable, Down the Rabbit Hole. I knew, I was like, oh, I know those because I've seen them pop up. Those are brand names that people have talked about so often that just looking at the names, I was like, oh, because I've watched tons of YouTube channels. I could never mention the reason why I recognize those names, because I hear them referred to a lot. So they have brand names that are built up. It's hard to do that. So when you have a brand like Twin Peaks, Paranormal Activity, Star Wars, Star Trek, that's why they do that. That's why people go, how come they don't? If you want to tell a sci-fi story and it's going to be so far away from Star Trek, why don't you just make up your own thing? That's the reason why the Orville, which I don't know is still on, even though people enjoy that show. If that show was called Star Trek Orville, it would be much, much bigger. It would be much bigger. I don't know if it's still on, but you need those brand names. So if I'm sitting on the brand name Twin Peaks, I'm going to reboot it. I'm 100% going to reboot Twin Peaks. If I was sitting, I always made this joke that they should make a live action Ed, Edd and Eddy starring the kid from 2.5 Men. And I was talking to some guy. He's like, dude, that's the worst idea ever. And I go, and that's why they'll do it. They will make a live action Ed, Edd and Eddy movie. It won't be starring the kid from 2.5 Men now, because I remember I would joke about that so much. The guy, this is at a job I had. He was younger. He was like in his 20s. He would get mad. He goes, dude, that's my favorite show. And every time you say that, I know that you're one step closer to there being an Ed, Edd and Eddy starring Angus McGruff or whatever the kid's name was from 2.5 Men. And I would say, hey, dude, I saw a billboard on the way to work today. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it was live action. He's like, don't even, you're putting it out into the universe. So yeah, we're at the Point remake. I remember when it was a couple years ago when they started making the Flintstones. Like back in the 90s, they had the Flintstones movie, the Addams Family, the Cut. See, I've gotten into that habit. Flintstones movie, the Addams Family movie was a remake of a 1960s property. You had a couple of those. You had Beverly Hillbilly movies and all that stuff. And I remember thinking it's just a matter of time before they start making Transformer movies. It's a matter of time before they try making G.I. Joe. And sure enough, it was about 15 years later when both those amazing movies came out. The G.I. Joe one was okay, but and now they're going to be looking at a live action Ren and Stimpy. They're going to be wanting to do. I'm surprised they haven't done Are You Afraid of the Dark? I know they did a like Scary Story. They've done variations of that. But if I was Nickelodeon, I would be looking at they're doing a new Ninja Turtle movie, a CGI Ninja Turtle movie directed by Seth Rogen. Dude, you know what's funny, Barfy Man, is that Minecraft movie. I was 100% on board when Rob McElhenney was going to direct it. Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was going to direct the Minecraft movie. And I was like, I have no idea what we have to. Now it's I don't know who's directing it now, but he left. I'm not even interested in it anymore. Does Nick still do movies? I think I haven't watched Nickelodeon in years, but Nickelodeon might do like Nickelodeon movies, like Disney Channel movies, but Nickelodeon should, and Nickelodeon did have some theatrical movies as well. You're right. They did. But if I'm looking at Invader Zim, I'd be like, let's make a live action movie and we'll put it on streaming. Let's make a live action Invader Zim movie. They did do a live action. I've always wanted to see it too. Fairly Odd Parents movie, which I didn't really like that show that much, but their voices were kind of annoying. But I wanted to watch the movie. I thought it was an interesting idea to do a live action movie of that. But yeah, I would look at this. What's our brand names? How can we make money off these things? Retro is in. If they made a live action Courage the Cowardly Dog movie or Ed, Ed and Eddie or any of that stuff, it's guaranteed money as opposed to coming up with a brand new idea. That's just the way the world works. You'll keep getting them and people will keep watching them. I think superheroes are on the down. I think superhero movies, it's been too long. I think COVID killed the superhero movie. That's my guess. COVID killed the superhero movie. We haven't had it. Black Widow should have come out on streaming. It hasn't. It's been so long. Endgame was the perfect. If Endgame hadn't come out yet, like if they had Infinity War and then COVID hit and there was a year and a half between that and an Endgame, that would be the rebirth. But if you never saw another Marvel movie, you're like, oh, they beat the bad guy. Everything else on the plate doesn't look that good. All the good heroes are dead. Hey, what's up, Mello? Hey, no problem. Everyone can come in whenever they feel like. 4 movies. Well, it's funny because 4 movies a year is a bit much, but here's the thing. Like I said, I put out 5 episodes a week, and when I take a week off for vacation, people stop listening to the show, and it takes time to get them back. The production cost for this show is 0. Oh, from hearing my voice, she's probably like, "Oh, well, look at all that gray, dude." My hair's starting to grow back in. I'm getting that that Reed Richards going on. I want to get like those gray bars over there. Well, tell your mom thank you. Tell your mom I appreciate it, and tell your mom I have a haunted doll as well. I don't know why that's important in my owl picture. You take a break, and people move on to something else. People need entertainment. Even if it's just passive entertainment, even if you're just washing the dishes and stuff like that. How many times have you put a movie on and then ended up browsing the internet? You're not even watching the movie. You just kind of like that entertainment going on. Missing a year of superhero movies, especially a lot of them are kind of disposable, I think is really going to hurt superhero movies. I think it's going to help every other type of movie. And I think you'll see horror movies. You can shoot a horror. Here's the thing. This is my take on COVID. I don't really think I've talked about it on the show. I think that and I'm not going to go into like all the conspiracy theory stuff, but what's going to happen is you're going, as an industry, as a film industry, you're going to see companies start to go, how many extras do we really need for this movie? And Because if COVID's still around and if people aren't getting the vaccine, we're in the year 2021, people are still nervous about stuff like that. You don't want to have 400 extras for that zombie scene in The Walking Dead. I think that's the reason why Walking Dead is ending in season 11. It's because they looked at it and they go, COVID may be with us for the next 4 or 5 years and may be with us for the next 4 or 5 months. We don't know. Everyone may get a vaccine. People may refuse a vaccine. We don't know. But we can't do a show like The Walking Dead, which requires a ton of extras. Even if there's no zombies, it's all town scenes. With movies like black superhero movies where people are running from rubble and stuff, there's so many extras in that stuff. Horror movies, there's no extras. Horror movies, just a bunch of people trapped in a cabin. And you could easily take your cast, test them, and then ship them up to location. And you pay them extra. You'd have to pay these people extra. If you're making an independent horror movie, you're not worried about that. It's you and your buddies and a couple actors that you get from local theater going up there. You're not worried about COVID. Someone gets it, whatever. I mean, it'll suck. But if you're a big Hollywood thing, if you're a big Hollywood company, you don't want Ryan Reynolds to get COVID halfway through production. You're going to have to shut it down. So you would just pay your actors more. You put them up in a location. You shoot a horror movie that has 6 people in it and a CGI monster or a puppet, which would be even better. There you go. So I think you might see more horror movies. You might, because people need content. COVID, I think, to Barfy Man's question. Oh, yeah, and it's funny. So Barfy Man said, hopefully it'll make Japanese superhero movies. They're still making those. My little brother sent me this really cool article on Kotaku, I think it was, how Mighty Morphin Power Rangers stayed in production during COVID because they wear masks. The heroes themselves, faces are covered. And they were even showing how they staged shots so it looked like they were in a line. Because when COVID, nowadays we have a little more information on how it's spread and how many people die from it and stuff like that. But in those first months, you didn't know. You didn't know if you could get it by buying some ham at the store and taking it home and then eating the ham. You didn't know. You didn't know. Now we know, you take these precautions, wash your hands, stuff like that. But Super Saiyan, whatever, it was their Japanese superheroes. They wore the masks. Instead of, they looked like they were standing in a line, but they would be staggered out. And we would have 5 extras going, and they would shoot it. Super Sentai, yeah, they would shoot it to make it look like it was a bigger group. And they didn't miss a beat. They just kept Super Saiyan, yeah. He's from Dragon Ball Z. They were able to do that. Shows that people are fully masked. You may see more movies like Sin City coming out, where it's all CGI background. Anything where you can keep the cast isolated. But I think we'll get to it. We'll round the corner on it. I know that language has been used a lot, but that's just, it may be next year. It may be the year after that. It could be tomorrow. We don't know. But we'll reach a point where we have enough therapeutics and a vaccine and stuff like that for COVID. And it's tragic that people have passed away from it. And I'm not minimizing that. But if it takes 2 years before you can do a big action movie, before you can bring in stuntmen and all this stuff, that's going to kill superhero. That's going to kill the superhero genre. You can tell small superhero stories, and I think those are some of the most interesting ones, like Joker. But look, think about the crowd scenes in Joker. You would not have been able to make that movie, even though that was a personal movie. You would not have been able to make that movie 4 months later. That movie came out in October 4th. It came out on my birthday. March, we were locked down. That movie was pretty much nothing but crowd scenes, except for the beginning. And, him and his mom. But you know what I mean? I think but horror movies, you don't need that stuff. It actually works better. You don't want to have a horror movie where you're in a crowd. This is how bored I get sometimes. Fridays, I 100% take off. I don't do anything on Fridays. I don't do any podcast stuff. I don't work at all. I do nothing on Fridays. Last night, I stayed up till 3 a.m. reading about saw traps. I was too lazy to watch the movies, but I found a Saw Wikipedia, and I was just reading the traps. I was too lazy to watch the clips on YouTube. So instead, they're like, oh, the bucket and buzzsaw challenge. They're like 5 people have buckets on their head and they get pulled towards buzzsaws or something like that. You know what? Who knows? Who knows? COVID could be there. It's funny because we've faced COVIDs before. It's a virus or I believe it's a virus. We faced them before. We didn't really know what it was. They came and they went. Maybe they wiped out a bunch of people. Maybe they didn't. We didn't have a name for it. They come and go. I think that it'll mutate, and it has mutated. But remember, it's a living thing, and its goal is to find new hosts, not to kill them. A parasite that kills its host has to find a new host right away. Most parasites, most viruses want to fit this balance where they can stay in you as long as possible and replicate as fast as possible. It wants to do both. If it kills you within the first hour of getting it, the chances of it's trying to replicate itself, just like all life. If it kills you right away, if it kills you within an hour of getting it, it can't replicate, it dies out. It dies out right away. So it wants to keep you alive long enough to get more people infected. And what it seems to be, what we're seeing, because we're seeing a rise in COVID cases. Hey, have a good one, Leo. Have a happy Halloween and be safe, man. Hey, no problem. Thanks for helping support the show, and thanks for listening to the show as well. We see this. I think we're going to see the life. We're not going to see a death increase. I think we're going to see a increase in infections because the virus is mutating. It wants to get, and it's not sentient. It doesn't want to do these things, but it's just the way that life works. It wants to spread. It doesn't want to kill its host. It's not evil like that. It's hard to say evil when you're talking about nature, but you know what I mean? Like if it killed its host, if it started killing people more readily, it actually would have less time to mutate. So we see more people catching it. The question is, obviously, as people go, it causes these long-lasting health problems and stuff like that. That's where I'm still a little... I do believe it's a serious disease, and I do believe that it can kill people. Whether or not it can cripple their brains forever, I'm going to have to see more evidence on that. That's probably enough to get the YouTube channel. Just me saying that's probably... I believe it's dangerous. I take precautions against it. But yeah, I think that the long-term health effects, I've seen millions of people have gotten it, and I know like 10 people or maybe even 100 people or even 1,000 people who are saying they have issues with their brain afterwards. That seems more like something else going on out of the millions of people who have had it and recovered from it and stuff like that. But, you know, again, like I look at it, I wear my mask and I carry hand sanitizer with me. And, you know, I don't know if it's mass hysteria. I'll tell you this right now, though. If I got COVID, and I've already gotten COVID. You know, there's 80% of people don't show any symptoms of it or they get mild symptoms. There's a chance that I got it back in December or January. It didn't show up in March. That's just when people started paying attention to it. But let's say that I got COVID tomorrow, and let's say that I was totally fine. I would beat it, even though I fit the obese category. That mostly accounts to other comorbidities, bad hearts, bad lungs, stuff like that. If I got COVID, I go through the 2 or 3 days, maybe it lasts 14 days, and I'm totally fine. I think I would think anything that was different about me, I would connect to that. So let's say I started having really bad allergies after that. I'd go, oh, the COVID. Oh, again, we have to look at longitudinal studies with this stuff. If someone got it in March and they said their head's still fuzzy, it doesn't mean that it causes your brain to get fried forever. I think it's dangerous, but I think we need more. Yeah, it's like a reverse placebo. If all of a sudden I started getting stomach aches, even if it's because I'm eating beefaroni every single day, I may relate it to the COVID because that was the other health concern that I had. So I don't know so much about that. But again, you got to be safe. I use the hand sanitizer. I carry it with me when I'm going in and out. I'm washing my hands with it. I wear my mask. And I don't go out as much. I've been walking more recently But you just gotta be safe. It's one of those things. Like I get why people. I totally get why people are fighting the masks, but I'm not one of them. I get why people are like it's an infringement, and I whatever. Like it doesn't matter to me. I mean that's kind of my. You can't change their mind on it. I hope them the best of health. I hope they don't get sick to prove them wrong. I think that's always horrible. I think I did an episode on that recently, didn't I? About doxing the dead. That might have been in a bonus episode. Man, that's gone gray. Look at that little stripe back there. I want people to be healthy. I want people to be safe, but you can't do it. But I get it. I don't want to get anything more, and then we start getting political and stuff like that, which is to me just isn't the interest. Look at that. That almost fell over on my computer, and you know who knocked that over was Bigfoot. Yeah, Barfy, man, that's where I'm at. Like, I think you do have to open stuff up. I guess Britain's going into a second lockdown, a month-long lockdown, but it is kind of like, it was no bars, no gyms, which that stuff's not even open in Oregon. Gyms aren't open in Oregon. But I guess they said no going, which is fine. I was like, oh, that's fine. And then one of the things was no going out unless it's essential. So, but they got 1 million cases over there, though. But again, I'm neither an epidemiologist or an economist. Like, and those are the two things that we're working at right there. So, I don't know. Do you guys have anything you guys want to talk about? Since I've been talking straight for 2.5. I don't mind. Like, again, I don't mind. I think we probably won't watch a movie. I think what we'll do is we'll set something up ahead of time and say, hey, because I would like to watch some cool movies with you guys. I like watching movies, and I like sharing weird movies. I'm not going to force it on you guys. I feel bad because not everyone has Amazon Prime. Not everyone's in. It's Phasmophobia. What is that one? Is that the Is that the one where you're the ghost detectives? You're like in a you're running around like a haunted house or something like that. I think that's actually in my. It's not in my library, but I think it was in my like wish list. It looks spooky. That was the problem. I'm looking at. I have seen. I watched a review on it. I think I saw. Dude, that looks super spooky. I don't think my computer would run it, dude. That would be fun, though. That would be fun. I think it would be too. I think it's too spooky, and I don't think my computer would. So, that's cool. Full voice recognition. The ghosts are listening. Use your actual voice to interact with the ghosts through Ouija boards. No, dude. I'm not playing a game with no Ouija boards. You know what? See, I have the Rabbitron 3000. I have this big desktop down here. That would run Phasmophobia. So let me think about that, because that actually would be cool. I would like that. Would be. It's nothing I could do tonight, but that would be cool. That would be cool to play some. I don't know, man. The problem is then my heart. I start getting scared and stuff like that, and I'm like, ugh. I'm looking down to that. Dude, Left 4 Dead is too scary for me. Like, I played Fear, and that was spooky. That was kind of spooky. It's so funny, dude, because, again, like, I'm not trying to chase trends or nothing like that. I wasn't going to stream it, but I was thinking, dude, I could probably play Among Us. We could probably play Among Us, all on Steam or something like that. I thought that would be fun. I wouldn't want to stream it. I want to be like, hey guys, it's Dead Rabbit Radio playing Among Us because that's popular, but it's only like a couple bucks. Every system runs it. And we'd set up a little Among Us with fans would be awesome. I'm trying to think because then we'd set up a little Discord, right? When do we have to set up a Discord? That would be funny. Do you know the only problem? The only problem with playing Among Us. Yeah, no, if you don't want okay, I don't know what that last part there means, Barfy, but the only problem with playing Among Us is imagine if we're playing Among Us and I'm the imposter and I convince you that I'm innocent. So I'm absolutely lying to you the whole time. And then the next day you have to listen to me talk about this crazy ghost story. And you're like, I don't know, man. He's a really good liar. Like if he could convince me that he wasn't the imposter, then how do I know to believe him? You can shill your stream if you want. That's totally fine. I don't have a problem with it. You guys have been listening to the show forever. I've talked about both of you guys on the show. If you guys want to, so yeah, I'm actually interested. So would you guys stream on Twitch? Because yeah, I'm actually interested in that. There was a time when I thought about streaming video games. If you don't want to talk about it on here, you can message it to me as well, because I'd check it out. Do you guys play Among Us on there? That would be so funny. Nice. Yeah. I played like Spooky's Haunted Castle. Me and my little brother played that over. It was last summer. We did the skip. We skipped a bunch of episodes, a bunch of levels, but just recently he sent me the SCP Containment Breach game. We've played the Fighter, where you fight as different horror movie characters, where it's like Freddy versus Chucky and stuff like that. I do like playing a good scary video game, but oh, that's nice. The developer jumped into the chat. I don't know the game Faith. I hadn't heard of that one. Send me your Twitch. If you don't want to put it here, send me your link. I'd be curious to check that out. If we did a okay. If we did a that's fine. I can go to it. I'm subscribed to one Twitch channel. I'm not subscribed. Like, there's only one channel that's in my favorites, and you guys are going to call me a simp if I tell you who it is. There's two Burnt Toast Ghosts. That's one's yours because I recognize the drawing. Okay.
I restarted it.
Nice, dude. I've never heard of Burnt Toast Ghost before. I mean, other than you, so I didn't know it was a universal name. Do you know who AC is on Twitch? I heard her on she played Among Us against Omewrecker, which I watch Omewrecker all the time. There's this girl named AC. And I was like, she has an awesome sounding voice. So I went and I found her channel. It was in the links. It was Omewrecker's links. But yeah, I haven't given her any money, nothing like that. But she's pops up whenever I type in Twitch, since she's the only person I've gone to. Whenever I type in Twitch, it defaults to her page. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, my thing is like when I watch, I've only watched her stream once live. She has a perfectly clean bedroom. And I go, that's a set. That's a set. That's not the room. That's probably not the room that she sleeps in. That's a dream room. See, that guys can look at and go, oh, and then I can imagine walking in her door after a date and da 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 da. Like it's a set. It's really, really interesting when you watch because I don't watch these streams, but obviously I know who Pokimane is, and I've seen these other people. They have these rooms set up, and you're like, that's their spare room. Even when you watch like YouTubers like Dan from Movie Junkies, Film Junkies, and he now has his own channel, and he has an office. And it has toys in the background like Ninja Turtles and movie stuff, and he's actually said this is my spare room. That's not a room that he actually does work in. That's an office that he goes in to shoot his stuff. I'll answer that Britney Spears thing in a second, Barfy man. There's a difference. But when you look at AC and Pokimane, and who's that one? Belle Divine. Those are sets. That's not where they sleep. It's really interesting. It's the same way when you look at a menu of Taco Bell and they show a taco. That taco never existed. It's all Photoshop tomatoes and lettuce and cheese put perfectly to make it. The taco, that burrito never existed. It's Photoshop. That's not AC's real room. It's a set. And I'm not knocking her for it. No, I'm not knocking Pokimane or anyone like that for that. That's a business decision. And guys do it too, where they'll have all their action figures behind them. That's not a relaxing place. Yeah, it's a studio disguised as a bedroom. Exactly. Because all that lighting. Can you imagine like every day when you come home from work, you're like, oh, look at all those cameras and that lighting and stuff like that. It's a set. And then you go sleep in the other room of your house. And again, I'm not knocking them for it. Well, I remember the first time because that was really the first stream I had watched when someone was playing video games live. I watch them on YouTube when they're edited. I was watching AC and I go, that's fake. It's a fake room. That's fine. She's a nice girl, but it's a set. It's an illusion. It's a fantasy. Being a Britney Spears fan is not a simp. It is not a simp, and here's why. I am paying money for an artistic product that was created for everybody. That's being a fan of the music. If you buy like posters and calendars of hers, which I've had both of, you're still buying a product as opposed to someone making. This is the difference. If there's a poster for, I know you were teasing Parfait Man, but let me explain. When you buy a poster for $9.98, that poster's for everybody for $9.98. When you're watching a stream, when someone can watch it for free or someone can pay $200 for it. And again, I don't have a problem with that. Like, so I know simp. I think just simp's a funny term. Like, if people want to do that, yeah. The difference is the Barfy Man saying the difference is streamers simps think they're getting attention. It's a parasocial relationship. Yeah. One thing I'm gonna pat myself on the back here real quick. One thing I like about this show, about Dead Rabbit Radio, is there's multiple ways you can get on the show. Sure, you can support the Patreon, and if you support the Patreon, you're flying around in the Carpenter Copter, you're getting in that. But if you don't support the Patreon, but you send me a story, you get a shout out. There's so many ways to get mentioned on the show that are not monetary. So to me, I don't feel like it's, and I do like Britney's music. Yeah. And, so I'll support that. And I want to have a Britney Spears calendar. So I buy a Britney Spears calendar, but yeah, I think like because people have asked, hey, do you only take story suggestions from Patreon supporters? I was like, no, if you have a story and I use it, I want to give a shout out. Or if you find something weird. There was an episode recently where I said, you guys are amazing. I said there was the Bigfoot Encyclopedia or something like that, the Western Bigfoot Society. It was a newsletter that existed. It was put on a CD-ROM, but the CD-ROM is no longer for sale. I said, if you guys are ever at a used bookstore, you know where this story is going. I go, if you guys are ever at a used bookstore or a garage sale and you find one of these CDs, buy it. 3 days later, one of you guys sends me an email going, found it. They sell it as USB now. And she sent me the link. I was like, are you kidding me? 3 days after I was like, I don't know where this is at. She's like, here it is. They sell it as a USB. You can buy 800 Bigfoot stories for $25. I think it's actually more than that. I think it's like 8,000 pages or something. Or it might be 800 pages. I don't know. But anyways, it's a huge amount. I'm going to have to pick up one of those. I did end up buying one of those shirts that I talked about on Earth First, the Keep Struggle for Freedom fight. I really thought, because remember that episode, like I said at the beginning of the live stream, I didn't plan on doing that episode like that. I had to come up with that episode that day. And I found that shirt while I was researching it, and I mentioned it on the podcast. And then someone asked for the link, and I go, I was just going to put it on Twitter and Instagram. And as I was looking at it, I go, this shirt is not going to be around for long. Like, this shirt doesn't exist outside of this store. You can tell it's super poorly made. So I dropped $20 of Patreon money to buy that shirt. And so I'm going to wear that the next live stream. I think we're going to do these. I would like to do a live stream once a month. I would like to do this. I have fun doing this. I think this is really cool to be in touch with you guys. I feel like I want to give you guys more, the Patreon supporters more. I don't want to do. So let's get Barfman saying you shouted out way more general email people than Patreons. Yeah, it's funny because I try to find a line. There have been people who have supported, who've told me, hey, I can't support the Patreon, like I'm in another country or stuff like that. But I've seen them support the show day in and day out for months. And I've given them shout outs, had them fly the Carpenter Copter. People who have done artwork, like Ash Black supports the Patreon. But there have been people who've done the artwork who haven't supported the Patreon and then ended up supporting the Patreon, and they got to fly the Carpenter Copter twice. And I just like giving people shout outs, man. I remember back when I was in school for journalism, my teacher said we always would do this thing where we would walk around campus and ask students their advice on people and stuff like that. Think of this. What do you think of that? And I always think this. Why are we doing this, dude? And my teacher, Bruce, he goes, people love to see their name in the newspaper. He goes, they'll pick a copy up if their name's in the newspaper. I mean, it's kind of a jaded way to look at it, but that stuck with me. People like to hear their name, and people like to be rewarded for their work. Could you imagine if this show was not given? First off, I wouldn't get nearly the amount of stories I get from you guys. If I was just like, hey, I found a really cool story the other day and someone was listening. That happened one time. This guy sent me this huge email about Pizzagate related stuff in Europe. And I remember reading it. This is way early on. I remember reading it and being like, I don't like covering that topic anyways. I think it's gross. I barely could stomach talking about it on Monday's episode. I don't want to do a bunch of stuff on it. It's not that I don't believe it's not real. There are elements that are, and there are elements that aren't. But I was just like, I was reading the article and I was like, the email, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to cover this. I think I responded to it, but I didn't want to cover it. A couple months later, and it was a big email that documented all of this stuff. I don't mean to shrug my shoulders to say, well, I didn't want the email, but you know what I mean? Like, it was let me finish telling the story and then you'll see why I shrug my shoulders. He sent me this long email about all this Pizzagate stuff, and I was like, I don't really. So anyways, fast forward 2 or 3 months, and I find a story on Wikipedia about Marc Dutroux, and he was a guy who was committing these horrible crimes, and he had like police help or government help, and they covered it up, and they always wondered. And I did an episode on it, and he hit me up like 2 days later, and he's like, hey, why didn't I get the shout out? I sent you that email months ago. And I go, what? And so I put, because a lot of you guys use the same usernames across platforms, I looked up the email, and sure enough, in that huge list of stuff, there was a paragraph on Marc Dutroux. And I go, I honestly felt bad about that. Like, that's the thing. Like, and I assume he stopped listening to the show. I felt bad about that. I'm not being like, oh, he should have done. No, he recommended that, even though it was in a whole list of stuff. He recommended it. I did the story later, and there was no workaround for me on that. Normally, when you guys send, like, I've been wanting to talk about that Chris Watts documentary on Netflix. I don't remember who recommended it me to watch it though, so I haven't done it yet. If I know someone recommended me to do something, I try to hold it off because I want to give you guys credit. I would be the same way. So that sucked. Like, the onus is on me. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it that way. The onus was on me. I understand why I made that mistake because there was like 8 paragraphs of stuff. But at the end of the day, it would suck if I was in his shoes and I sent someone a big old email and, but yeah, that story again came out, and it was funny because when he said that, I went back and I was like, oh, that was the email. I don't like covering that stuff. I think I just don't like covering that topic, but that guy kind of came out but anyways, so I feel bad about it, but I do like to give people shout outs when I can. Barfy Man saying it's based on care rather than community. Yeah, you just want to. I picture myself as a listener, and if I recommended a story, I'd want to get a shout out. There's a lot of different ways that you can get shouted out on this podcast. Fan art, which I want to start doing again. I want to start putting up fan art on Friday. It's just we've had the 1 week YouTube wasn't uploading stuff, so I was going to do it then. Because most of the art is better viewed on YouTube. And then this week was just I was doing too many episodes, having to redo episodes. But fan art, finding a story, or supporting the Patreon. Those are all viable ways. And people who support the Patreon still get shout outs for submitting stories and stuff like that. What I'm thinking of, because when I run out of new Patreons, I give shout outs to legacy Patreons. And I like doing that too. And then, because then you get to come back and ride the Carpenter Copter again. There's an early episode that I almost did as one of my repeat episodes. I'm going to save it for the next repeat episode. It's horrible. It's so bad. I understand why it was suggested as a episode for their favorite episode. Someone sent this in as their favorite episode. I started listening to it. I'm like, this is unlistenable. I am going to do the next classics. I'm going to put it on there, but it's so bad. And I'll do the commentary of why I think it's a terrible episode. I'm not going to say that in the beginning. I'm going to be like, hey everyone, we're going to have an outro. Stick around. Can you? I'll go ahead and. I don't see why I would. It's not one you picked, Barfy Man, because I think you picked 2 of them. No, it was Sandown the Clown. The topic is amazing. I can understand they chose it because of the topic. It was Cole and Danielle. They had picked 2 episodes. They had picked Mormon Bigfoot. I think they picked Mormon Bigfoot, and they picked Sandown the Clown. And the topic is great. The other story, it is presented so bad. It is. I was shocked at how poor it was. But I thought you had Barfman. Somebody did. I mean, obviously, a bunch of people did. I had too many. Marcus Clausen suggested. I think it was Hyper Sigils. We're going to do that one because I only could do 5. Sam the Sandown Clown. That was it. You can't even. It's so bad. And it's funny because I've learned to do. I don't listen. Like, here's the thing. There's criticism. And then there's people just talking trash. And you have to learn how to tell the difference within 3 or 4 words. Because I don't read negative stuff. I just will read the first 3 words. Or if there's a paragraph like this, I'll read half of it. I'll read their left-hand side. It's a weird thing. I don't care what people are saying about me. I know some people, they have to read what people are saying about them. I don't. It's this weird. I always thought other people. I think I might have mentioned this before. I've had girls break up with me and write letters, and I never read them. They'll send me an email and it's like all these paragraphs, and I'll look at the beginning and I'm like, they'll be like, it's time that we had this discussion. I've been putting this off, but finally, and I'm like, nope, done. Don't read it. I do it all the time. Well, I don't do it so much anymore because I don't get those letters. Usually, I don't get those Dear John letters. But you send me an email and it comes across as negative. I don't have time for it, right? I don't have time for it. So it's a skill. And other people have been like, dude, how do you do that? First off, someone goes, I remember once I was talking to this girl. I was talking to Veronica, my friend Veronica, a longtime listener of the show. And she goes, oh, I could have such a hard time on being on the internet because people are so mean. And I go, dude, I get called a fat asshole constantly. It doesn't bug me. She's like, really? She goes, I couldn't do that. And I go, yeah, whatever. Not so much. Not so much anymore. That was when the show first started, where you just had people kind of passing through. And I think even to see how I would react to troll stuff. And I'm like, whatever. Yeah, it does whatever. Like those are just words and stuff like that. I'm like, but I don't read negative stuff. Like when I'm looking at YouTube comments and they're like, you ignorant, I stop reading them. But you also got to accept criticism. There's a difference between a negative comment coming from a place of hate or anger or whatever. I ignore those. Block them. Usually on YouTube, some of you guys may have noticed on YouTube, I'm pretty freewheeling with the YouTube stuff. People will post hateful stuff. I think it reflects worse on them than it does on me. There are people who've posted stuff that I think is racist or ignorant and stuff like that. And most of the time, 99% of the time, I just let it stand. I think it's a testament to them more so than a testament to the show. There are some people, though, that you do have to block because they're antagonizing other listeners. They start antagonizing other people. And there have been times, too, where I've been like, I've seen two listeners go out. But sometimes people are just trying to aggravate other people. It doesn't get to me. But sometimes it's trying to aggravate other people. And that's when I'll be like, nope, block. So one time, though, I got a piece of criticism. This is different. The criticism was, they go, you're actually a really good storyteller. But what happened? Okay, hey, have a good one. I'll probably check that Twitch out in a bit, Barfy Man. I'll start telling a story and I go off on a tangent. He goes, you're actually a really good storyteller, but every time you go off on a tangent, it reduces the tension of the story. And he goes, you're doing it way too much. Now, that's criticism. Now, you might see it as a negative, but he was right. So watching that Sam the Sandown Clown, I do that every 2 minutes. I'll talk, and then nowadays I'll tell a joke, maybe, and I'll go right back to the story. Or I'll be talking, and I'll be like, oh, that kind of reminds me of something, and then I'll go back to the story. I won't even really do that anymore. I'll save my comments till the end of the story. For the most part now. I might make a joke because it pops in my head right there and it works in that moment and then I go back to the story. Sam the Sandown Clown. I'm like, so anyways, the clown is walking down this hill. Have you ever seen The Hills starring all those girls on MTV? Oh man, that show was so great, dude. I always thought that super hot. Anyway, so Sam's coming down the hill and he sees these two kids. Now the kids are kind of scared. Dude, have you heard about that new book called Scared by... And it totally ruins the tension of that episode. That guy was whoever it was 100% right. That's criticism. That is useful for the show. Because instead of just telling the story, nowadays, if you listen to like the Ghastly Leg story or the Cave to Wisconsin, I tell the story. I'll make jokes here and there, which does deflate the tension, but it's funny. And then and then I'll save my comments till the end. When I used to stop in the middle of a story and go, well, this is what I think about ghosts. And then go, no. So that you got to listen to criticism. That was actually valid criticism for the show. But that episode's so bad. I will replay it. And I'm going to explain at the end why I think that episode's so rough. And then think the topic is great. Poor execution. And I've thought before about redoing episodes, but no, I think the episodes just kind of have to stand how they are. And I think it's a funny episode. Don't get me wrong. Like, I like the segues, but I remember thinking about it. All the stuff that I said, everything I segued away to, had it been at the end, it would have been much more fitting. Interrupting the story where there's a creepy alien walking around these two kids, that's a really good story. Breaking in every 5 minutes with some bizarre segue. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a remaster of that episode. I don't want to re-record it, but maybe I'll re-edit it. So we're closing in on 3 hours of the live stream. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything they're curious about? About my haunted doll or my gutter kitty cat over there? Little cat man. My owl painting. My ninja. Oh, yeah. If I'm going to end the stream, got to end it with my Ninja Turtle hat. And that would be funny. Is there nothing else, my ghoulish friends? I will assume that means we are at the end of our spooky festivities for the night. Thank you, the live stream. I think we're going to start doing this once a month, which has kind of been my plan before. We're not going to do a Thanksgiving live stream. Probably not. Maybe we'll do a pre-Thanksgiving live stream. I really like the Thanksgiving live stream. The Thanksgiving live stream, I think we will do. If we do, we'll probably do one around there. It may be a everyone live stream. It may not be a Patreon exclusive, but I do want to do Patreon exclusives every once a month. As long as you guys are down, what is today? Saturday night. My Saturday nights. We can definitely do this thing. But if you guys don't have anything else, guys, you have a safe, spooky Halloween. And I hope you guys have fun. And I have a really cool week of episodes coming up. Did you know that there is a special power where you can smell? You can smell spirits. Did you know that? Well, you're going to find more about smelling spirits. And a cannibal who tried to get a man to eat his own testicles. That's coming up next week as well. That just happened too. That's not like from 1392. That happened about 2 weeks ago. And we got some other cool stories. Maybe one, I want to do this one. It's just going to take a lot of research. About angels in Miami trying to fight a demonic invasion. And the angels' allies are homeless children. That's a really good one. I actually really want to do that one. I just have to get my notes ready. But anyway, so you guys have a great Halloween. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. I hope you guys got to watch as you're wearing your own costume. I will see you guys later. I love you guys. I was going to say, I love you guys. Like jumping out like scary. Have a great one, guys. I should put my spooky music back on. You have